We'll go. We'll call the meeting to order. If I can ask you to please stand for the invocation and our Pledge of Allegiance. Please bow your heads. Again, our Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to come and assemble. Lord, we ask that you just bless each one that's here. Father, I just ask that you give us wisdom beyond all that we could ever hope for here tonight to make the decisions of this county. Lord, I ask that the citizens of this county be patient with us and allow us to do the business of the county. Lord, I just ask that you direct all of our thoughts and everything that we do would be your will, not ours. We ask these things in your holy name. Amen. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Be seated and we'll move to the approval of the agenda. Any changes? Yes, ma'am, Ms. Arts.
Mr. Chairman, I have one brief announcement I'd like to add. And then I was also wondering if, since Meridian has a public hearing at the beginning, if we could move their general business item. Oh, I guess it is first, sorry.
The fair housing law?
Yeah, never mind.
Yeah, it's the first thing.
It is first. They sat here so long last time.
You want to do your award at the, your announcement at the awards and presentations? Okay. Any other changes?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Vaughn from the EDC, McCall County, asked that his award and presentation be moved to the next meeting, so we pulled that. So it'll be on August 15th.
Okay.
Motion to approve agenda as amended.
Second. Motion and a second by Mr. Moore. Any more discussion? All for the motion?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. And we'll move into the public hearing.
Mr. Chairman? Yes. Let me just get there. This is the second of two public hearings required for the CDB application. I'm trying to get there. Let's see.
Do we have somebody here from?
I think they're on their way down here, but I don't think they're here yet. They have another item on tonight, too.
If you like, I could address some of the highlights of that.
Okay. Go ahead, Melissa.
Okay. So this is for the second public hearing for the CDBG Small Cities Grant application, and also requesting approval of the county's housing assistance plan, and that document is a required part of that grant application. And the Department of Community Affairs actually requires that an enabling resolution be adopted for the grant application to move forward. So that's one item that staff is seeking this evening, is that the resolution to submit the application be approved. And additionally, pursuant to DCA's application requirements, as I mentioned, the housing assistance plan must also be adopted. This housing assistance plan outlines the program requirements, regulations, eligibility, scoring criteria, rehabilitation standards, and other logistics of the policies and programs.
I make a motion to conduct the second public hearing and approve the enabling resolution and the housing assistance plan, which allows an application to be submitted to the Florida Department of Community Affairs 2011 Small Cities CDBG program on behalf of Wakulla County.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve. Any more discussion? Any citizens be heard? Yes, Ms. Arts.
I have some questions, and maybe when will this grant be submitted, and how much are we asking for?
The deadline is August 15th, and I believe the amount we could be eligible for is $750,000.
Okay, and the estimate is of how many, just so the public understands, this is a grant that is going to pay to demolish parts of and rebuild housing for preferentially handicapped, elderly, very low income people, and then it kind of goes from there to low income people. So roughly how many do we think we'll be able to do with that funding?
I have have not
Ballpark.
seen an estimated number on that. I think it really depends on what is requested. If you have several large requests come through for complete demolition and rebuild, you'll obviously do a much smaller number than if you're just doing rehabilitation work to existing houses.
It can range from like, say, 4,000 up to 60, 70,000, depending on what's submitted. Exactly.
Something else I really like about this grant is that it includes weatherizing and putting in Energy Star doors, windows, appliances, and so forth. So it'll also really help the people with their ongoing utility bills. So I think it's great, and it's my understanding we've never applied for this before. Is that correct?
I know we at least have not received it in the last 5 years, I believe. But
Okay, well, I think...
we did receive a CDBG for the Buckhorn community development, but that was a different type of CDBG grant.
I think Meridian's doing a great job. I'm sorry they aren't here to hear me. Oh, there you are.
Come on up, sir, and we just started with the, we've already have a motion on the floor to approve, so don't talk us out of it, but
I absolutely will not.
I don't know if some of the commissioners may have questions for you, and
Okay.
so I know, Ms. Art, why don't you ask again?
Yeah, I wanted a little more information about roughly how many families, just ballpark, do you think are going to be served through this grant? And that's my first question.
Absolutely. I'm Ezra McDaniels, Director of Administration for Meridian Community Services Group. To answer your question, Commissioner, we approximate relatively around 10 houses, depending on the amount of rehab that's necessary for each. So it's going to vary depending on the magnitude of the rehab to be done.
Okay, and there are two positions of housing rehab specialist and something else. Are those going to be people you already have on staff, or are those going to be new hires?
They're going to be the resources that we already have access to in-house. And so we are certainly affiliated. We have on staff construction specialists, so it would not be anything the county needs to do to hire anybody. We already bring those resources to the table.
But our construction companies that do weatherization, whatever, they're going to see new work because of this.
Pardon me. Absolutely. Every job that we have, from a technical perspective, the only thing we do is bid it out, and contractors will have access to bid on those jobs competitively.
Okay. Well, thank you again for identifying this opportunity to
No problem.
help some of our folks.
Okay.
I would like to see us do more rehab than building new. I think we need to take care of the people who have bad houses rather than build somebody a new house.
I absolutely do agree. And under this particular grant, new construction is you cannot do new construction under this particular grant. You can only do housing rehab. The CDBG program prohibits new construction.
And you said there'd be upwards to 10 houses, is that right?
Upwards 10 houses, give or take a couple thousands. We may be able to do more, depending on the magnitude of the rehab.
And briefly tell us how you pick those houses, those people who benefit from it?
It's a competitive process. What we do is we advertise and we put it out to the community, and they submit applications. They submit applications, and we score those applications. And it's on a first come, first ready basis. First come, first ready basis. Third party verification, so on and so forth. And that's how we choose those. So whomever comes in first, whomever is ready to proceed, they can get the documentation to us. Those are the ones that we will work with, and we bring those back to the board.
And how will you advertise that once
We do it through a newspaper of general circulation, so we cannot just post. We do the posting as well as advertise in a newspaper of general circulation here in your area.
Okay.
When will you find out if you get the funding, and when would you start advertising?
I'm a former director of DCA, over these particular programs, and it typically takes anywhere from a month and a half to 2 months to get through the site visits and to get through the awarding of the grants and get on the ground running. So I would say anywhere between a month and a half to 2 months.
Okay, thank you.
Very good.
Yes, sir.
When we move forward with this, when you advertise in the paper, I'd also ask that you come back and make another announcement at our commission meeting.
I absolutely will.
Thank you.
That's good. Randy, anything? Nope. Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. We have one citizen to be heard. Thank you, sir, for
Thank you,
speaking to us.
Commissioner.
Ralph Thomas?
Good evening. Ralph Thomas, 637 Hunters Trace. Just want to let you know I've reviewed the entire grant and the housing assistance plan. Very well put together. No problems with this. This is a good resource for our county, so happy to endorse it. Thank you.
Okay. Any more discussion? All for the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we'll move now into awards and presentations. Rick Markham is going to make a presentation on behalf of Opportunity Florida.
Good evening. My name is Rick Markham. I'm Executive Director of Opportunity Florida. We are now a 9-county RASEC region. We represent the 9 counties: Holmes, Washington, Jackson, Gadsden, Liberty, Calhoun, Gulf, Franklin, and now Wakulla has joined our RASEC area. All the benefits that come as a RASEC, which is part of the READY initiative, the Rural Economic Development Initiative, began in 1999 and was formalized in 2000. And Opportunity Florida was the first RASEC region that did that. We have all of our counties participate with a board member sitting on there with 10. I say all. We have one county choosing not to participate, but all the others do. They have the counties that participate can put a board member on, and each county gets 10 votes on all our projects. We have almost annually a staffing grant from the Governor's Office of Tourism, Trade, and Economic Development of $100,000. We recently were awarded another Office of Tourism, Trade, Economic Development infrastructure grant for $1.125 million for towers. And I'm going to come back to that in just a little bit. I've given Chairman Stewart what we're looking for on that. We also this last year applied for, with the South Central Florida RASEC, an ARA stimulus grant, broadband grant for $23,600,000. We also have to come up with a 30% match on that, and we pretty much have completed that now. We market to site consultants. Wakulla has instantly got on our website, your maps there, all your demographics there. I encourage you to go to the site and see how we represent you. But you've already been talked about in New York, Chicago, Dallas, Atlanta, and Boston, because the funds that we get through our staffing grant are used to make those trade missions in concert with Enterprise Florida, the state's economic development agency. In addition to that, we have visited in the year 2014, the expansion of the canal is going to play a big role on our area. We are 40 miles closer to the Panama Canal than the city of Miami. We have a market reach within a 500-mile radius of twice of what Miami, Tampa, and Jacksonville have. So the revitalization of the port of Port St. Joe is going to be crucial from a regional standpoint to all of us. We assist the local EDOs, and if you have a chance to talk to any of those people, any grants that they go for, when the word regional checked off, you have a much better chance of getting that grant. We've been very successful in assisting our local EDOs with everything from the Family Dollar facility in Mariana to facilities, and currently working one in Gadsden County as well. So that's what you get, and your fee for that, annual fee, is a huge amount of 10 cents per capita. And that puts what the state wants to see is skin in the game, participation, so that it's just not some organization that you join and forget and don't. We want you there. We want you participating. And like I say, all those counties, save and except Franklin County, are active members in Opportunity Florida. Doesn't mean Franklin County doesn't get represented. We still do our job because we represent the RASEC, and whether the counties participate. But it's good for them to have a vote. In this case, they get 10 votes. The bulk of our money, however, comes from the private sector. This organization was started by private business and has got a business sense about it and an attitude of doing what we can to really enhance the capacity for the region to support our local businesses. And every year we go through each county pretty much with site visits with particular businesses, finding out what they need, what their shortfall is, and that's what we do. Now, I've given Chairman Stewart the little perks on the towers that we're constructing with the OTED grant. The $23.6 million broadband grant requires this 30% match. This comprises that. If we can get a piece of dirt from you, we need at least a 75 by 75, preferably 100 by 100, and submit as many sites as you possibly can, because this is meant to enhance that wireless broadband network that we are currently building. And it's going to bring high-speed internet to people that have never had that. We're also holding hands with Florida State University to a grant from the $10 million Deep Well, so that we can go out to our rural counties and help build overcome the fear factor and the healing component in dealing with the broadband. And we put in an application for that for $875,000. So these are the things that we do. If you look at this tower, once the tower is erected, it never leaves your ownership. There are 5 what they call RAD centers on this tower, and this tower is built to 140 miles per hour, which is category 4, if I'm not mistaken, hurricane. Immediately you get 1 RAD center for your 911. There will also be the one on the top will be for the Florida Rural Broadband Alliance, which is our partnership with the South Central RACEP. Then the other 3 RAD centers, which go into the donation to FERBA, are for the, hopefully, cellular service. And I know there's a gap here, and so I can't see a downfall. At the end of 8 or 10 years, it hadn't been determined by the attorneys, the whole thing comes back to you totally, and any revenue that's on it. The Broadband Alliance will begin paying. You'll get all the revenue from the Verizons, the AT&Ts, whoever wants to put a product on the tower and leave space.
But let me make sure I understand. A promise of a piece of land doesn't mean we'll get a tower. We just go into the pot to get
right. You go in the pot, and what we've got to do is we got to mesh it and see, because this is matching for the broadband. It has to enhance the network for that. So it's kind of if you get one, you kind of won 2 or 3 ways. You get better cellular service in there. You get your 911 taken care of, plus more broadband capacity.
Whatever site is picked, I want to make sure the public understand this, whatever site ends up getting picked will be a site that will enhance. The big area for us is like Smith Creek. That's a very remote part of our county that we're concerned about. And that's where we have a piece of land that we could give to build a tower. But if that's not picked, then you expect to put a tower somewhere that would still have coverage of that area.
That's why I say if you need to put in as many potential sites as possible, because it may not be the exact one you've got, but moving it 5 miles over another direction might still satisfy your needs and help with the broadband, because this is point to point, and these are 20-mile deliveries. These towers work 20 miles from one point to the other on the broadband network.
What's the next step for us to move to?
I'd like to see, well, first of all, it's going to be elected by the board. So for you guys to have a voice on that, I'd like to see you commit to joining Opportunity Florida and let us know. I don't know what your population is. I think it's about 32,000. It'll be $3,200. Not the biggest, but you still get 10 votes, as much as anybody else does. And appoint someone to the board and come to our board meetings. We're going to have one soon. So if you want to come visit it, no rush, but we are going to start judging these sites here pretty soon.
Our total cost is $3,200. Is that what you're saying?
10 cents per capita, whatever the last.
So, right.
That's it.
How soon now, when you build a tower and Joe Blow wants to put a signal up on that tower, who gets the money off of Joe Blow?
Now that goes into the matching. That's to the FERBA. You don't get the revenue on that. Okay. For 8 or 10 years.
Until it comes back to us.
Once it comes back to you, all the revenue, including the broadband, will begin paying. And the broadband may, on the on the Furba Tower, they may start paying income to you at least in 3 years on that.
Now, that's okay, the broadband would come to us in 3 years?
Yes.
What would you expect that to be?
That is usually on, I would say, $1,000, $1,200 a month.
A month?
A month.
Would be coming to us
Right.
in 3 years?
Right.
Maybe.
Maybe?
Maybe. But you also immediately get your 911. You have one of those RAD centers for your use. Either the sheriff's department could use it, your emergency management, anybody could use that. That happens immediately.
And the $3,500, that's a one-time fee?
It's an annual fee. 3,200. Whatever your population is.
It just went down. I'm just kidding.
Oh, good negotiation.
I have a couple of questions. One, I'm sure you're already aware, we've joined up, we're in the Northwest RACIC, but we're in the North Florida Broadband Authority, North Central RACIC.
I don't think you are. I think you need clarification on that.
We are in the NFBA, North Florida Broadband Authority currently. I can turn to our county attorney, who's also, I believe, serving as their attorney at the moment, to justify, or
You all joined the North
thank you.
Florida Broadband Authority over a year ago before they got the grant.
so that's just, I know there's been conversation, so I want to know if that would affect
There's still confusion on that.
There are still
I'm
conversations.
not going to argue with council, but whether they can service you because the application was made and then you joined.
Right.
And you weren't part of the original application.
which would also be the same situation with the one to our west.
But if we put the tower here, because that's OTED money, but if it enhances the broadband network, then we could still do it here.
Okay. So do you have any concerns about that? Would we have to switch? Let's say we're in the NFBA, would we have to switch to the other one?
I would expect that you would need to switch.
Okay. Just something to think about as we're dealing with all of this.
And I'm not
only
here
been
waiting
one
to walk
Wednesday in
out
my
with a
life every
check or
day.
anything. I just wanted to
Well,
invite you formally, but I think we need to look at whether you are in that original
Right.
application.
And that's not that big of a deal for me because I like what Opportunity Florida's doing more so than just the opportunity for this tower. I was just bringing it up because that's the subject you were dealing with. I am curious. We'd have 10 votes out of approximately how many votes?
Well, each county has, so I've got 90 votes or 80 votes from the counties, assuming yours is in there.
Right.
We have Florida's Great Northwest, who's an active member. They get 10, and they pay for theirs. Chipola Workforce Board, they get 10, and they pay for theirs. All the other workforce boards pay a little less because they don't have quite the coverage. Chipola has 5 of counties of this, but I have the one in Tallahassee as a member as well. Then all the private sector businesses, the utilities pay 5 each. The
$5,000?
$5,000 each. The regional partners, if you regional businesses, they do something in more than 3 counties, they pay $3,000.
And are they each getting 10 votes?
No,
That's
$1,000 a vote.
That's $1,000
Except
vote.
for county commissioners,
And we get 10,
you get 10.
no matter what. Okay, that's what I was trying to figure out
Right.
because I knew it was
All
mainly
the
privately
others,
funded.
The reason their fees are different is it's because the coverage within the region, and basically that fee is based on $1,000 per vote.
And then it's that board that helps guide where y'all are helping to try and direct new jobs and new opportunities.
Absolutely.
Because because I'm more interested in what you're doing is your ability for economic development in the Panhandle, and we're on the eastern edge of what you're looking at. So I want to make sure that with our investment, which is a small investment, it's under $3,500, but that will be noticed instead of all of your focus being on like Pensacola.
We don't do Pensacola.
Well, Gulf County.
Gulf County. We do. Well, let me tell you, I run into that question about 9 times a year from each county, wanting to make sure that they get a fair shake. And the way that you really know that you get a fair shake is having your member, whoever you appoint to it, be there.
And it's one member for the 10 votes?
One member for the 10 votes.
And it would be a commissioner or staff or our choice?
Usually we ask, and this, like I say, this was started by the private sector. And what they ask is, a commissioner can be your representative, assuming he is has a business, not a salary. He has a business. We want business people running this organization. Or you can appoint a staff person. We just want to remove the political situation.
And is that committed? Well, never mind. We'll talk more about that later. Okay.
But that's what I'm here for, is to give you that invitation and to hopefully that you participate in it.
And just a little bit more clarification on the tower. We talked about Smith Creek. Is this grant will build the tower, is that correct?
That's correct.
Now, the service providers are the ones, they don't have to get on this tower, right?
No.
They have the opportunity to.
Have the opportunity.
Because there may only be 15 people in Smith Creek that want
That's
broadband
exactly.
internet.
If it doesn't make business sense, they're not going to get on it.
But the tower will be built so that right now we have a, because Congress had started to fund this for us 2 years ago, and then the new election happened and we lost the tower. The idea is we have a void where radios, our fire department radios, don't work in Smith Creek.
I understand that better.
Now, you immediately get your 911.
Right, immediately, and that's the reason the tower is so exciting.
That's the second that thing's built, you get your 911.
I just didn't want to get everybody's hopes up about revenue.
Well, your revenue's 8 to 10 years out.
Maybe.
I thought you just said we got some revenue in 3 years.
The FERBA would. The FERBA would come back, the broadband would.
There's not going to be a lot of revenue in that year.
I'm
Still $12,000 a year. It's more than you would pay in dues, so.
True. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank
Appreciate
you.
that. Okay, next is the presentation by Meridian regarding the fair housing laws.
Greetings, Mr. Chairman, fellow commissioners. Back before you again to give a brief and abridged presentation on fair housing. This is a requirement of the Community Development Block Grant submission. Rule 9B-43 of the Florida Administrative Code requires that the county, in order to submit an application to DCA for funding, they have to have undertaken a fair housing activity. And basically that activity involves awareing or alerting folks of what fair housing is. If you go to DCA's website, they do have information relative to fair housing. They have a clipping that has been reviewed by the federal government and approved by HUD as well. But as I'm sure each of you are aware of, you know what fair housing is, and basically fair housing prohibits discrimination in housing. You cannot discriminate based on race, national origin, religion, sex, or familial status. The structures that are covered are owner-occupied, that are exempt from the Fair Housing Act, are owner-occupied buildings with no more than 4 units, single-family housing sold or rented without the use of broker or real estate professional. What is prohibited under the Fair Housing? And I'm almost through. What's prohibited? In the sale of rental housing, you cannot, based on those classes that I just mentioned, you cannot refuse to rent or sell to any one of those classes, refuse to negotiate for housing, make housing unavailable, deny a dwelling, or set different terms, provide different housing services or facilities, falsely deny housing that's available for inspection, for profit, persuade owners to sell only in a certain area, that's called blockbusting, and deny anyone access to a membership of a facility. There are additional protections under the Act relative to those with disabilities. You cannot discriminate based on those with HIV and AIDS or have a demonstrated record of disabilities. There's housing that's under the federal government referred to as HOPR. I don't know if the county is participating in that, but that is a housing program as well geared towards those that are dealing with HIV and AIDS. Also, the landlord may not refuse to make reasonable accommodations to those with disabilities. In mortgage lending, lenders cannot refuse to make a loan. They cannot fail to provide information regarding loans. You have to provide the same terms irrespective of race, sex, or those with disabilities. And also, the Fair Housing Act deals with families. Unless a facility has been identified as an elderly housing under a community loan program, so on and so forth, you cannot deny renting to families with children. And that is the only exemption, as I am aware of, under the Fair Housing Act, to which you can deny renting to families with children under the age of 18. And if there are any complaints, if there is an existing complaint relative to fair housing, the landlord still can't discriminate against you based on whether there's a whistleblower, so on and so forth, you have a pending case. They still cannot take that into consideration as it relates to renting to you. You should have some literature in front of you that gives you the varying information and the contacts for those. If you feel like you've been discriminated against, there are many numbers you can call. You can call HUD, or you can call the other areas, and the numbers are designated in your pamphlets there. And I will entertain any questions.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being brief. We'll move on to the consent agenda.
Oh, I had one announcement.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Arch, you did.
Yes, I wanted to make sure that everybody knows that August 12th through the 14th is a sales tax holiday in Florida for back-to-school clothing and supplies. There are actually some increases from last year. So clothing, footwear, selling for up to $75 now is tax-free. It was $50 last year. And school supplies selling for up to $15 per item can be purchased tax-free during those 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, August 12th through the 14th. So if you know kids going back to school, help get the word out to their parents. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Arch. Okay, now we'll move on to the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
Move to accept.
Motion to approve the consent agenda made by Mr. Brock.
Second.
Second by Mr. Merritt. Any discussion? All for the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And now we'll go to planning and zoning.
All right, you only have one planning and zoning item this evening. It's an application for change of zoning R11-02.
Melissa, let me interject here and get our attorney to give us the spiel.
Sorry about that. This is a quasi-judicial matter. This is the second hearing of the matter that you took on, first public hearing on July 18th. If there are any ex parte communications regarding this matter, now is the time I need the commissioners to disclose them.
I communicated with the individual, but not about this matter.
I haven't talked to anyone.
None here.
Not regarding this matter.
Okay. If there is anyone here who's going to testify on this matter, including the applicant or the applicant's agent, please stand and raise your hands. Yes. Yes. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. That's it.
Okay, Melissa.
All right, sorry about that. As we stated, Randy Smith is the owner for this rezoning application, and this is seeking a change of zoning from agriculture to RR5. It's on a property that contains 17.76 acres, and this is located at 12 Card Lane. That's at the intersection there of Bloxham Cutoff, and then you've got the transmission line that's running there, Card Lane. The Planning Commission reviewed this item at their June 13th meeting and unanimously voted to recommend approval. Future land use designation is Rural 2. The flood zone for the property is C, at risk for minimal flooding. Adjacent parcels are zoned Ag, RR5, and RR1. The proposed RR5 district would be compatible with the land use designation, and the advertisement for this public hearing appeared in the Wakulla News on May 26th of this year, and the recommendation is for option 1.
Move to conduct the final public hearing and adopt the application for change of zoning R11-02. Based upon staff recommendations, the recommendations of the Planning Commission, and the findings of fact and conclusions of law made by the Board, and any evidence submitted at the hearing hereon.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve. Any more discussion?
This was brought up at our last meeting. One of the reasons they're having to make this change is that we have a contradiction in our comp plan where for agriculture, and Melissa can talk to this more, for agriculture you can have one house per 5, but you can't subdivide it into one house per 5 acres, but you can't subdivide it in acres that's smaller than 10 acres.
It's actually in the agricultural zoning district.
Sorry.
It is.
Thank
Oh, no,
you.
that's fine. It gets confusing. But it does have a minimum lot size of 5 acres allowed in the ag district, but there's also a special requirement that you're not to divide lots less than 10 acres in size, or into 10 acres in size or less. So.
And I was just going to suggest, and it's only in one way or the other, I'd just like staff to bring back a correction, either making it where we can only do one house per 10, or we can do one house per 5, and they're allowed to be 5. So, I don't care which way.
Does the board have a preference per the 1 per 5 or the 1 per 10 in what is brought back?
I think we'll have less requests for change if we go with 1 per 5.
Whatever would mend this problem we're facing right now, I would think would be the way to go.
This would be an instance where the 1 per 5
There you
would be
go.
preferable.
I think that's the way to do it, but it's my opinion. So, is that fine with the rest of the board?
Is that part of your motion? Or you want
Does that need to be?
separate?
Does that need to be a separate? I'm just it's sort of just.
No, I think it needs to be a separate.
Okay, I'll bring it up after this motion.
Or have, just ask staff to do what you said,
Yeah.
they'll bring it back as a separate item, and then we'll address it. Is that fine, Melissa? When you do that, we won't make it as a motion, but just direct you to come back with a solution to fix it, and
That'll be
vote on
fine.
that. So the motion is to approve.
Yeah.
Okay, and a second, any more discussion? All for the motion? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, now we'll move it into general business. Bard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First item under general business, to request board ratification of acceptance of the 2011-12 SHIP funds for $350,000 and request board approval for resolution authorizing $125,000 of the FY09-10 SHIP funds as match for the federal small city CDBG grant application, from which you just had your second public
Move to
hearing on.
approve the resolution and budget amendment accepting the $350,000 in SHIP funds for fiscal year 11-12 and approve the resolution authorizing $125,000 in fiscal year 09-10 SHIP funds to be used as local match for small cities CDBG grant.
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second to approve option 1. Any more discussion? Any citizens to be heard? All for the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 10.
Next item is a request board approval to schedule a public hearing to consider adopting an ordinance establishing the district boundaries for the Wakulla County Board of Commissioners and School Board. As you know, part of the charter requires that we, in the census, we redraw the lines for the districts based on population. I'm going to let Melissa walk you through the item. She's been key in this process, along with the intern that we had working in the planning department. So Melissa, you can just walk commissioners through the item.
Yes, the Florida Constitution and Florida statutes both require that the districts be reevaluated every 10 years. And the main key in that is that the districts be distributed so that the population is roughly equal within each of those districts. The last time the board revised the district boundaries was back in 2001 after the last census. And so the last census done this previous year in 2010 actually found that the population grew by about 34.5% in the county. But the population growth, of course, was not evenly distributed throughout the districts. Actually, it occurred largely in the Crawfordville area. And so what staff, along with the intern who was previously here, has done is gone in and tried to adjust those district boundaries so that the population will equal out among the districts and follow main roads as often as possible so the boundaries are more clearly defined. And in addition, it came to staff's attention that there was a concern about the inmate population that is at the Wakulla Correctional Facility and whether or not they should be included when distributing the population among the districts. So the proposed map that you have included in the packet does take into account that inmate population of roughly about 1,300 individuals and sort of backs out on that. Or in other words, it's 1,300 more people in District 1 where the correctional facility is located, so that the voting population among all districts is roughly equal. And because of the nature of this item, we had been recommending option 1, but if the board would feel it wise to hold a workshop for further discussion or to gain citizen input, staff would certainly be open to that as well.
Move to approve staff to schedule and advertise a public hearing to consider adopting an ordinance adjusting the boundary lines for the Wakulla County Board of County Commissioners and School Board. And I spoke with the county attorney, and she recommended a workshop. So I would also, and include also scheduling a workshop before the public hearing.
I have a question. Do you want this to be I mean, staff can go out and hold like a community workshop on this item without the board needing to necessarily have a quorum and be sitting here. I mean, it's...
Is there some controversy here? I mean, please
No.
explain. I need a workshop.
Well,
let's get the motion on the floor and we'll talk about it. So so your motion is to approve and advertise a public hearing and to schedule a workshop?
Yes.
Okay. Do I hear a second? Okay, how about just
Okay, then
hold a public hearing?
just the original option 1.
Second.
Okay. Let me explain. I've worked with this gentleman that we had, his name keeps leaving me. I want to say Zach.
Yes.
Zach, the intern we had, and then Melissa took over, and she's gotten up to speed rather quickly with it and understands how to manipulate the program that we're given. It's unique this year. It's much different than the last time we did it. I was here when we did it the last time, and it's in voting blocks, and you can't arbitrarily just take those voting blocks and cut them in half. So I asked Melissa to work to try to make them as even as possible. I gave her some specifics, try to keep it under 3% population difference in each one of those, which is what they ask you to do. The government does, and she did that. I think, in fact, we're under 1% with the numbers she has now. She backed out the prison numbers in your district, and the idea was to keep, what they ask is that you keep all the sitting county commissioners in their districts, and you keep all the school board members in their districts. She did that, and the lines that you see she's come up with meets all the parameters of the requirements of redistricting, and they're very similar to what we already had.
Do the precincts change at all? I assume they would.
Well, I don't know about precincts. That's Mr. Wells would have to tell you how that changes. We don't care about that. Because we're all voted at large, it doesn't matter.
I know, but I'm just saying somebody...
As long as we don't, they don't want you gerrymandering, and that's what she was very careful not to do. And so some of the lines, I just want to say that some of the lines are arbitrary looking because they don't, I think in 2 cases they don't follow a road or a river, but they just, and we can't change that because again, they're voting blocks, and you can't distort a voting block. So anyway, what you have before you, I have taken to David Miller and asked him to look at it, and he has said that that's fine with him, and however we move forward, they will follow suit and take it to their board for approval whenever we tell him to. So he's fine with the adjustments we made, or we can, and I certainly think we need to have this public hearing. We're required to have the public hearing, and I think we can accomplish what you want to do in a workshop in the public hearing setting as well. So
what will Alan do? He voted those 1,300 prisoners last time.
Well, he may have, and illegally, but he may have. No, I'm just kidding.
One of the things, it's okay, no worries, I knew. So we have 2 maps right now. We're showing right now is one without the prisoners. I think when we have the public hearing, we'll also show the one with prisoners, and we can have that discussion there. One of the things that I wanted to look at, I guess we can do this. I'm just going to let you know one of the directions I'm going to look at is right now District 4 stretches from McLaughlin Bay all the way to St. Mark's, and it's a great deal of distance. And I wanted to see what it would look like if we put that easternly port into District 1. We moved District 1 to the west. So instead of moving it to the west, moving it south and including that easterly side of the county so that they're closer. I can be in St. Mark's in 5 minutes. It takes me half an hour to get to Clockney Bay.
Most of the growth occurred in District 3.
Yes.
District 3 shrank even more But that's where the lion's share of that 34% population increase went to.
So again, we all voted at large, so it doesn't, this is semantics. I mean, you just have to live here to run for that seat, basically.
So, and for the publics in District 4, it's down into the water there, but disregard that. It just obviously goes to the edge of the coastline there. So anyway, that's where we are. We had Melissa's certainly up to speed, and she can walk you through anything you need to know about it. And if you want to go in and manipulate the program so that it shows that, Alan, I suggest you go sit down with her and see what it does, and maybe bring that back as a proposal.
Yeah.
Okay, so any more discussion? Any citizens? All for the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item 11.
Mr. Chairman, this is a oops, where am I? To request board consideration or approval to create a Wakulla County Airport Committee. As the board remembers, on June 6th, we brought a number of items, including budget reductions for the current year as well as possibly for next year. One of those items was the options to look at turning back the airport to the Tarpine Homeowners Association. Since that time, I have met not only with the Tarpine Homeowners Association, the county attorney, have met with them. I have met with the former airport director, who was also a Tarpine resident, John Russell. He also asked me to meet with DOT to discuss this option. And since that time, well, let me just say that when I met with DOT, they kind of convinced me that maybe it wasn't the best idea to turn over the airport at this time. They're convinced that we're moving in the right direction. They've got some money programmed in out years, as the item states, about 31,000 in future years coming to the airport. And they think it would be a wasted effort to turn it over at this point. They think it could be an economic engine for the community, for tourism and development. So they urged me to reconsider that.
I'll make a motion to approve to create the Wakulla County Airport Committee and not to convey it the airport to Tarpine Homeowners Association.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Sorry, Tim.
That's okay. I just wanted to thank Mr. Foltz. He was very instrumental in putting this item before you today. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Mr. Foltz for the effort that he put into this item.
So, Randy, are you, in your motion and your suggestion, I want to make sure I understand it here, that
Option 1 and 2, as recommended.
how would that committee be made up?
Just like the agenda item has it. 4-year staggered terms, initial appointments. I assume there's 5 members. Anyway, it's spelled out in the agenda item.
It's 5 total members, including a chairperson.
If it helps the board, we're just looking for the okay to go ahead and create the committee. We can bring back the bylaws and resolutions for your consideration, and you can tweak it however you want. From that point on, we're just basically looking tonight, okay, to start down that process or down that road.
I have a couple of questions.
Okay, go ahead.
Basically, at this point, it's a private airport. We may own it as a county, but it's pretty much a private airport. I've had a lot of input from people around the county, and they're not all that happy about supporting a private airport, even though the county owns it. They perceive it as being private. I can support this as long as that airport can pay its own way. And the second thing is, I don't want the committee to receive a grant that puts us in a position where we have to carry forward with hiring an airport manager. I don't want anything to happen that's going to get the county in a position where we have a continual cost. And I want to see the airport support itself.
Is that the direction that this committee is moving towards, I assume, from reading the agenda item?
Yes, and in my discussion with members of Tarpine, that's kind of the goal that I want, is that we need to be budget neutral with the airport and start gearing it up to be self-sufficient. And that's kind of the goal that we're trying to reach.
I don't personally, especially if it didn't cost anything, I don't think it's a liability. I do think it's an asset, but I agree with what you said.
Okay, let's hear these citizens, and then we can talk more about it. Howard Kessler.
Thank you. Howard Kessler, 251 Levy Bay Road. I support staff's recommendation. This airport has gone through a lot of changes. Certainly is not a private airport. I never lived in Tarpine, flew airplanes out of Tarpine for the first few years that I lived here. It's accessible to everyone. It's maybe not known to everyone, but it's accessible to everyone. And I think you're right. I think it will be an economic force in the future. This brings in volunteers, it reduces costs, and works through budget neutrality, which we all want. Thank you.
Okay. Al Shakovsky.
Al Sholtowski, 85 Walden Road. I just want to support staff's recommendations. Thank you.
Okay. Carol O'Dell.
Carol O'Dell, 96 Monacoop Circle. I support staff's recommendation. I think the airport is an asset for the county, and I appreciate your consideration.
Okay. Ralph Thomas.
Ralph Thomas, 637 Hunters Trace. The fact that it's budget neutral and also uses volunteer labor, I'm glad to support staff's recommendation.
Bill Russell.
Strongly support what Mr. Barden said. I think in the future it will be a good economic engine for the county, and we have a lot of smart people that can serve on these committees.
Reggie Ashley.
I'm Reggie Ashley, 125 Tarpine Drive. This airport is going through a lot. It is a county airport, though it's not private. I know it's conceived that way, and we've done a lot down there in the years past. I've flown in and out of that airport since '95, and this is a great opportunity with this committee and their knowledge to access the funds that have been there for years, but due to the airport not being in compliance, they couldn't use them. Now's a great opportunity for use that money. It's been sitting there for a long time, and I strongly support it, and this is a good asset for the community. Thank you.
Diane Wilson.
Diane Wilson, 175 Tarpine Drive. Thank you for allowing me to speak, and I want to say that I support the recommendation that you go ahead with the agreement with the Wakulla County Airport Committee. Thank you.
Richard Shepard.
My name is Richard Shepard, 146 Tarpine Drive in Panacea, and I support staff's recommendation to create an airport committee, and I want to know that this airport would be an asset to the county. Thank you.
And Steve Fultz.
Good evening, Commissioner. Steve Fultz, 35 Monacoop Circle. I appreciate the opportunity this evening, and I too echo all of the previous speakers, and I strongly support staff's recommendations to approve options 1 and 2. Thank you very much.
Okay. Any more discussion? None? All for the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 12.
Mr. Chairman, this item is requesting board approval of the preliminary rate resolution for fire protection services. This is your fire MSBU. During the budget adoption process, the board discussed the potential rates to be considered for this year, and that discussion centered upon taking the $61 rate to $75 for residential per dwelling unit, the non-residential rate from 5 cents per square foot, which it is currently, to 6 cents per square foot, and the unimproved land from 14 cents per acre to 17 cents per acre. This resolution would set those as your preliminary rates, just like your trim. This is your maximum rates that you would then notice accordingly at your public hearing, which, if you adopt this resolution, is set for September 6th, your regular first meeting in September. You could come down from these rates, but you could not go up.
Make a motion to adopt the preliminary rate resolution for fire protection services.
Okay, motion to approve.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Arts.
I have a quick question, real quick, for the county attorney. The letter, the notice that we sent out last year was for a higher rate than this. wasn't it?
It was 475. I believe that was the rate.
And
last year.
I asked this question, so we're not going to have to, when we don't have to notice anyone we've noticed in the past, would we need to send out a similar level? Now, if we raise up from this rate ever in the future, will we have to renotice these people, like if it went from $75 to $76? But if we sent out the old rate that we did in the past, they would still not have to get renoticed in the future?
Well, what the Florida statute, I know what you're asking.
Okay,
what the Florida statute says is that anyone, if you're raising your rates above what has been previously noticed, you have to notice everyone who's going to pay that amount. For this year, the people you are noticing are basically your newly improved properties who were not charged. So you had vacant land last year and they built a house for this year, so they would now be charged $75. They will get a notice so that they have a point in due process to come and be heard on the matter.
Heather, I was talking to Donnie about this today. Is there any way to address that issue maybe through the building permit process, or is this just the way to do it?
They have to be noticed of a public hearing of a specific date and time. But there is a way to address that through trim in coming years, and I talked to Brad in Donnie's office today about getting some modifications made to the trim notice so that this information can be included on there. That way it's fully transparent to every property owner. They can see exactly what's going to be on their tax bill coming up.
Would it have been possible, we're talking about garbage later, we're going to be spending whatever it is, $17,000 to notice.
It would be
Would
possible.
it have been possible to put that on the trim notice?
Not this year, no.
But I mean, if we had decided this,
Yes. Put it in already.
Yes. You need a different trim notice, though, with additional information on it.
I asked that question the other day.
So my question is, with the rate we're advertising, I think if we make the change, it's going to be for the amount that Commissioner Merritt has stated, but should we advertise the amount we advertised last year so that the conversation, we won't have to re-advertise if we change it in the next 2 years?
I believe the $75 is what you noticed last
Okay, is it?
year.
Yeah. Okay, then perfect. That was my question.
Okay, we got some citizens to be heard. Howard Kessler.
Howard Kessler, 251 Levy Bay. Support the fire department, firefighters. They had a deficit arrangement with what happened to their funding. I think that it's important to reestablish their funding. I also think that the board needs to keep on looking at spending cuts and not just assessments, but this is needed. Thank you.
Ralph Thomas.
Ralph Thomas, 637 Hunters Trace. If I'm keeping track, I believe this is the third tax increase with probably 3 more that's on the horizon. I just want to make sure that we're continuing to tighten our belt. The folks that are having to pay these taxes, they're being hit harder and harder every day and having a hard time. You know, even staff with a 20% budget of our employees here, and the private community's feeling the exact same thing. So every time one of these tax increases comes along, you're squeezing folks a little bit harder that are already having a hard time making ends meet as it is. Thank you.
Bill Russell.
Agree with Ralph. This is the smaller of your tax increases. This is needed. These guys have worked up a budget, and they've made it a very tight budget, the county guys have. And they were working under a bit of a handicap because there was talk of it going to the sheriff's department and what have you. They worked this under the BoCC, and they've done the best budget they could do. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, and I think it's important to note that we lowered this tax last year, and we'd hope to keep it down a little longer, but we're having to take it back, basically taking it back to where it was.
Okay, any more discussion?
I think there may be one more.
We're going to let you go, Chief.
Why, thank you. Darcy Brazier,
Talk us out of it, though.
60 Holiday Drive. You talk about this being a tax increase. It isn't really a tax increase because it was a tax decrease last year because they moved the salaries into the MSBU, which cut our funding tremendously. This is not a tax increase. I just want to make that clear. In fact, it doesn't even it doesn't make up for the loss from last year. It helps, but it doesn't make up for it. I just wanted to make that clear. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I want to say a couple things in addition to some of the other comments that have been made. I think there definitely is belt tightening. In fact, there was too much belt tightening last year with this particular department. And they are making efforts to make additional cuts. Because of the workshop we had, input from the sheriff's office and further discussion, they are continuing to cut their expenditures. So, I think this is something we need to do to maintain one of our most important departments so they can provide essential services to our citizens. Also, this is a more fair way of collecting fees for fire service than what we had just 2 years ago or more. These are based on what the expected uses are, so that previously land that didn't have structures on it wasn't assessed, but yet we still have to pay to put out those fires. So it's a more fair way of collecting a fee for a really important service, and we aren't overspending in this area.
Good point. Thank you. Yes, sir.
I had one person on staff raise a concern, and I don't know how you want to look at this. We have this public hearing, and we have the public hearing that we're going to discuss for solid waste, both scheduled for the same night. And I don't know if you want to do this one on that night and do the solid waste one. This one would be at a regular meeting and do the solid waste one on a different night, or if you want to have them both on the same night. If we wanted to do that, I would recommend having the solid waste one on a separate day from a regular meeting, because that one will be the biggest noticed. But I'm just raising that issue now as something to think about as we move into the next one.
Last year you had both solid waste and fire public hearings at a special meeting, and it was held in the community center to make sure that there was room for all interested citizens to participate. I don't anticipate that would be needed for the fire this year, so you could very well leave this on September 6th, and then when we get to solid waste, discuss whether you want to have the solid waste public hearing at a special meeting.
I got you.
Regardless, they both have to be done before September 15th by Florida statute.
And yeah, I would recommend leaving this one at the date it's scheduled. But I just wanted to bring it up as something that I'm going to talk about at the next one also.
Okay. All right. So, any more discussion?
I have a question. How much negative are we between the dollars we're asking and what's our negative? How negative are we in the fire department? How many dollars are we negative?
I think I understand your question. What you're asking is how much short are we from where we're at this year's budget to where we're currently talking about going?
That's right.
Well, if I'm to be entirely honest, the dollar figure that you're actually proposing in this meeting is still short of where we need to be to run at full service. Where we're at now, this year's budget, had we not had to carry over, we'd have been somewhere in the $400,000 range short. Even with this increase, we're still short of running at full capacity. It still doesn't allow for any replacement of trucks. It still doesn't allow for any additional stations. None of that. There's no growth at all here.
Okay. Now we had a proposal and a review done by the sheriff, and I think his proposal or review said that we could save $500,000. What part of that $500,000 are you going to be able to save?
I have no idea what the sheriff proposed. We were never invited to see that proposal, nor was it offered to us. So you're asking me to speak on something I have no idea.
I'm not asking if you hadn't seen it. You hadn't seen it. Okay.
I think we had talked about some of the things, and it was my understanding that wasn't it the insurance, the liability
Oh, yes,
insurance?
ma'am. Yeah, one of the
something?
specific items that we talked about was we have an EVT technician, which is emergency vehicle technician, who does our repairs. And in doing so, that EVT technician carries a certain amount of liability insurance. He carries $1 million bond that's liability that's basically our benefit, not his. And in doing so, first off, it's very much required by the agency that governs all fire departments that you use an EVT technician. You can choose to go outside of that. You just have to do that with the understanding that you accept 100% of the liability if you do so. So yes, we do use an EVT technician where some other agencies don't use those type technicians, and knock on wood, to this point it hasn't bitten them. We as a fire department as a whole, including all your volunteer chiefs, we discussed this, and the discussion is that we choose not to take that type of liability. Our trucks are very special units. This is not your average car like you would see at the Sheriff's Department. This is a 40,000-pound fire truck.
So that was one of the proposed savings, was to do maintenance with
and we've reduced that cost. Our current EVT technician has reduced his cost by an additional 10%, which he did again last year. So he's 20% lower on his cost now than what he was 2 years ago. So, I mean, we're doing like everyone's doing. We're putting the pressure on every place we can.
I will apologize because part of that savings that was in that review, probably half of it was over at the EMS side, so your portion might have been $250 or something like that. What are you going to do going forward to reduce your expenses from where we are today?
Well, let me back up just a half step. We've already started, so let me tell you what we have started to do and move forward from that point. Of course, we recognize the budget crunch like anyone else has, and in doing so, we've tried to make as many cuts as possible. The county, the paid staff that's on duty now no longer takes the full-size fire truck, the engine, to medical calls. They now, take an SUV, which is, your standard car or truck that size, so it cuts the fuel cost down. Plus, we're not putting 2 firefighters out there on the road in a heavy truck. Of course, that truck does cause damage to roads over time, so we've done that to reduce those costs. Also reduces fuel costs. We've basically eliminated all but the bare minimum of the overtime that exists in our agency. Our training now is done by on-staff personnel, and it's backfilled by our flex personnel who hold those certificates, so we've reduced that cost. Not that was a tremendous amount of money, but it was significant enough that where we addressed it. So we've done those to reduce costs. We've addressed our power and our water usage, our utility costs. We're looking at that. We used to wash trucks every time they got a speck of dust on them. That doesn't happen anymore. It's now, if it absolutely needs it, then that's when we address it. Otherwise, same thing with the air conditioning, the electric bills and that sort of stuff. We've tried to address that as much as possible.
How about your hiring of your fire chief? What are we doing on that?
It was re-advertised today. I saw the advertisement go out today. Honestly, it was they advertised. There was a pool of applicants. I'm not really sure how that went, but it was put on hold with the interim county administrator and the hiring of a new county administrator. I think there was a pause waiting until that happened.
I'll ask you a question. If we did not go out for a new fire chief, would we be violating the law?
You have to have a fire chief by state statute.
Can we have a fire chief from the inside of our county?
I'm not exactly...
Could we move somebody in the county that's already here working? Could we move somebody into that position?
You can, but that was also one of the things that come up in the questions that were posed to us by Mr. Barden. That was one of the things that the Sheriff's Department said they could do to save money, is to have a fire chief that worked shift work. It was shift-based. And per the discussion, again, with all your experts that are in this room, these county fire chiefs that have been here for 30-plus years, it's just not feasible. The workload that's required of one person, you have to understand, not only is he the fire chief, but he's the chief financial officer in that agency. He's the secretary. He's the filing clerk. He's all those jobs rolled in one, and he couldn't possibly do it on that kind of...
I'm not asking that he go out and go to work. I'm asking, can we bring somebody up to be a fire chief, as you would hope for one to be, and do the things you would have them to be, but can we bring somebody up who is local, who is here now, is in the fire department? Can we bring somebody up in that position?
There are great applicants within the county. I don't know that those applicants are in our service. I'm not saying they're not. I'm just saying most of our employees that are in our paid service as of now are younger men with very little experience. This is probably one of those jobs you don't want the less experienced people doing. That's my personal opinion, though, not my professional opinion.
You're saying that there are people who work for fire departments outside of Wakulla County but live in Wakulla County who might be able to be considered?
Yes, sir, absolutely. And there are people, I mean, Chief Russell used to work for the city of Tallahassee for many years as a battalion chief up there, and he's got a wealth of knowledge. He would absolutely be an excellent candidate for the job. There are those people that occupy this county. We have a wealth of knowledge here, but we just have to figure out a way to tap it. But
I'm sorry about
No,
this.
please.
You have an acting fire chief now.
Yes, sir.
Is he not capable of becoming fire
No,
chief?
sir. It's interim chief Louis LaMarche who is the chief right now, and he was the fire chief in the county and chose to step down because he wanted to pursue his schooling. So essentially, he stepped down, and after the unfortunate death of Chief Ward, he was forced to step back up in that role, and essentially, he's put his life on hold. No, sir. He doesn't want that position.
Well, let's ask him again. We would be saving a budget item.
And let me address this issue briefly. And if we move Chief LaMarche up into the position, we would replace him and hire another firefighter to replace him. There would still be the same number of staff.
As we have now, but not as we had before.
No, we would, as a budgeted now. And I could be wrong, and we can have the conversation if you like amongst the board tonight, but I can pretty much anticipate the vote going that we will vote to keep the budgeted number of staffers in the fire department budgeted and filled as soon as possible.
I believe we have a budget workshop Thursday night. This would probably be a good place to talk about that.
Yeah. Good point. Yeah.
If I can just say a couple things, I encourage any of the commissioners to please call up the experience sitting over here, the Chief Russells, the Chief Fraziers, the Chief McMullen, any of the chiefs sitting here, and talk to them about the responsibility of this position. Honestly, I mean, I did step down and go back to school, but it's a huge...
I've not said anything about the responsibility. I know it's a heavy responsibility. I'm just pretty much talking about the money. But if I could save a position by having somebody move in, but if I can't, then I can't.
Right now, you operate with what you're supposed to be operating with right now is 6 career staff total full-time, which is 2 staff per shift, which are 24/48, so that's your 6. And then you have to have a chief. So in order to eliminate position, you'd have to put the chief on shift, which Lieutenant Hindle addressed very well. It's too much of a...
And just so everybody's aware, we have how many paid firefighters?
Right now, full-time staff, you have 6 working right now because we don't have a fire chief. And actually, you have 5 because we have an open firefighter position as well. So we're very understaffed.
Let's bring this back. I mean, we've gotten way off where we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be talking, thank y'all, supposed to be talking about the preliminary rate resolution for the fire protection service, setting it at $75. And I do suggest, and I think it's a good conversation, and I think we need to talk about it when the budget time comes, but let's get back on this and move on. So any more discussion of citizens to be heard? We already heard that. All for the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 13.
Commissioner, item 13 is request board consideration of the solid waste RFP number 2011-18 and award the bid to Waste Pro. As you all know, we sent an RFP for collection and disposal. We received two bids back, 2 responsive bidders. The evaluation determined that Waste Pro's proposal was the best. Therefore, they're recommending we move forward with going into a 10-year contract with Waste Pro for doing collections and disposal here in Wakulla County. Cleve Fleming is here. He was on the evaluation committee, as well as Walt Nickel from JEA, our consultants for all things solid waste. And I guess, Cleve, if you want to just highlight what was in the RFP for the board.
I'd like to go ahead and make a motion that we do not approve awarding RFP 2011-18 to Waste Pro, the county solid waste franchise hauler, and do not authorize the chairman and county attorney to negotiate a contract.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion to not approve the awarding and a second. We can move on and let the citizens to be heard and then vote on this motion.
I think we can hear from Cleve. Or you want to wait and hear from him next?
No.
If there's another
we're
motion?
going to approve this, then there's no sense in hearing it.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not sure we're going to approve it, but we need to get a vote and then get another motion on the floor if need be. If not, we'll move on. Samantha Morse. Now, again, public, this is to not approve awarding the RFP 2011.
I would like to move. I would like you guys to approve that, and this is why. I'm paying $300 a year on my current garbage service, and I'm not getting any service except for garbage pickup. I'm not getting curbside recycling. which is what Race Pro is offering as well. I've tried to contact my garbage service all day today and all week last week, and they haven't contacted me, so they have poor customer service as well. I learned about this by a letter on my garbage can from my service saying that Wakulla County was going to put them out of business. So I called one of you. I'm not going to divulge any names, but you told me your opinion, and that was it, and one side. So I had to find the rest of the information via the recycling task force, and I did. I found that information. It's a great proposal. I think if the citizens do find that information, they would see the same thing. Your main thing against this proposal is lack of education. If the citizens were educated on what this proposal gives you and what the citizens are getting from this proposal, I don't see a problem in it whatsoever. I understand that there are tax issues and that the belts need to be tightened, but that would be tightening my belt. That would be going from $300 a year to $196 a year. That would give me recycling. That would keep the county beautiful by not having the garbage on the side of the road and put it in the landfill where it belongs. And it would give Waste Pro the responsibility of closing the landfill. And it wouldn't be on our county anymore. That would be theirs. So I don't see why a citizen with common sense and education would see this as a bad thing. Thank you. Oh, you guys were elected to do what was best for the county and not your own agenda, just to let you know.
Thank you. Ralph Thomas?
Man, I hate to follow that. Ralph Thomas, 637 Hunters Trace. I have to say it's a fantastic proposal. The numbers look good. It provides extra services for us. It's really tough. This is a conflicting thing for me. Where I get stuck on the fact, though, is we're going to be eliminating jobs. You know, we need to be investing in our own community, and we've got folks that came in and created jobs that they have worked for years to build. They came in after Waste Management stepped out and left us in the lurches, and they invested a lot of money in infrastructure and trucks, and they put a big investment to come serve the citizens of this county. They pay taxes in this county. They hire in this county. And even though it's a fantastic proposal, I just can't get over the fact that we're going to just basically throw them by the wayside. And I think that's where I come down on this. My hauler is G&S, George. I don't know if you guys know him. I was hoping he'd be here tonight, but he told me he doesn't like to stay out late when the weather is bad. But if you don't know him, he's my friend. He's 80 years old, and he picks up garbage every day of his life. He served in the Korean War, still has shrapnel in his belly today, that when his government told him to go serve, he served. And he's still serving his customers today, and I appreciate what he's doing for me. I just have a hard time thinking that we throw him by the wayside. I'm all for Waste Pro coming here, and I think it just needs to be fair market. We need to have the free market. Let it decide. You know, if they can come in and provide that service, and it's done in a free market, not forcing business out, then I'm for that. I just don't think that we need the government shoving out the citizens and the taxpayers who are investing in this county. Thank you.
Billy Mills.
Good afternoon, Chairman and fellow commissioners. My name is Billy Mills. I live at 4202 Coastal Highway. I would like to pretty much echo Ralph's comments. I think it's a horrible thing for us to be adding more people to the unemployment rolls. I think that the $25 a month that I spend is one of the best services that I get for my money. This board recently imposed 2 taxes at another meeting, and they call it all kind of things, but it's still additional cost. Everybody that I know is having to cut back. I think that it's time to consider reducing expenditures. Thank you.
Marcus Bouton.
Marcus Bouton, 3132 Choppy Highway. I'm the owner of MBE Garbage Service. I've been in business for 3 years. I just want to make sure you understand that if you move forward with this proposal, you're going to be affecting a lot of other people besides the solid waste haulers, people that, we buy our fuel from down here and have our repair work done and everything. But I would like to say if you decide to move forward with this, and I hope you don't, that I'm the only commercial dumpster provider besides Waste Pro in Wakulla County, and I would like for you to include the commercial in the bid. Thank you.
Pamela Joy.
Hello, Commissioners and County Administrators. My name is Pamela Joy, 226 Renegade Road. I'm speaking tonight on behalf of the Recycle Task Force and also as a resident and homeowner in Wakulla County. On Thursday, the Recycle Task Force met and discussed the pros and cons of this waste management RFP and the agenda items presented tonight. And as I understand it, these people, those small waste haulers, are not being put out of business, but are being bought out with about a 15-month option, I believe. The Recycle Task Force Committee is, of course, very interested in the recycling aspect of this RFP for Wakulla County. We had 10 people in attendance at the meeting, members and citizens, and we had unanimous agreement in favor of the $196 a year option to citizens, which includes collection of recycled items. Now, as a citizen, I'm also concerned about the cost. I only work 3 days a week, so I don't have a large income. I went home afterwards and discussed this with my teenage son, and I discussed value with him. And I started thinking about what I consider what I pay for cell phones and television each month. And this is going to work out to about $16 a month. But the value to me individually and to the county is going to be great compared to what I spend on other things. Universal collection of trash and recyclables will also save the county money because there will not be so much to collect from our forests and roadsides. I think we spend about $400,000 a year just collecting trash from the forests and along the roads. And people don't recycle either, but maybe they'll walk down their driveway to put it in the can instead of throwing it along the roads or throwing it in the woods. And ultimately, this will benefit everyone living in the county because a stronger budget, if the county saves money, will offer the potential for more services. And last but not least, help keep Wakulla County beautiful. Thank you for your consideration.
David Morgan.
I'm David Morgan, 148 Boynton Court, and I was kind of shocked when I first saw the proposal because I've had RGS now for 3 or 4 years, and I'm going to tell you, it's never been cleaner. I've lived in a lot of places all over, and they're there on time. They pick the stuff up. They don't make a mess. They've been polite. If there's going to be a holiday on their pickup day, they leave me a note saying, we're going to be here this day instead of that day. And some of the other aspects that have already been brought up, for example, is the buyout program. Come on. The folks that are working in waste management as the drivers and the pickup guys and the garbage guys, they don't have the skills to go down here and find another job. They just don't. So the buyout program, quite frankly, to them is probably going to be a joke. As I see it, the only reason for the proposal is that the county is going to be able then to tack on yet another fee to everybody in the county, because everybody's going to have this Waste Pro garbage pickup. And it's unfortunate about the first lady and her contractor. She needs to find somebody else because mine is doing great. And this is America. There's 4 or 5 different contractors here in Wakulla County. And when I lived down at Shell Point, we had a guy down there, Jim. He did a great job. So, sometimes there's a bag, and I'm not so sure the garbage you see on the side of the road is from the garbage guys. It could be from anybody else. Lord knows, anybody hurtling down 98 in an RV from Gulf or Washington State or wherever they're from,
they could be dumping their garbage, and to blame it on the garbage guy is unreasonable. It truly is. And then the unemployment and the great job, and the Waste Pro, I can guarantee you the money ain't gonna stay in the county. They're not from around here. They're not going to hire local guys, and if they say they will, they might but if you follow up a year later, I'll bet you those local guys aren't with them. Same thing happened with the banks, when the banks were all taken over. Oh yeah, we're going to hire these other people. Then they made them reapply for those jobs. Yeah, right.
And they kept them all.
Come on. Anyway, thank you very much.
John Davis.
I just want to say that I'm against this proposal because I've seen all these small operators have to finance on a shoestring to get a business started, which is not a field that most people would choose to do, if they did. But they chose to work hard and keep and I've had no better satisfaction with the garbage service at trash pickup than I have under the system we got now. I understand we're going to have to do something about the collected garbage, but there's no reason we can't have a center that people can even pay to take their household garbage to themselves, but they need a choice because we have a single contractor. Our rates are just going to skyrocket year after year after year. They'll be down here proposing in front of you guys to get an increase. And I haven't had an increase in I don't know how many years, however many years since we had to have our own trash. Waste management before was a total nightmare trying to deal with bookkeeping out of out of Panama City. I say keep the jobs in the county. These local jobs, these small proprietors, they're the heartblood of America. Not these bigger enterprises that's got the big money. Thank you.
Joanne Palmer.
Joanne Palmer, 29 Reservation Court. I'm a citizen that pays $8 to $10 a month. I go to the landfill now, and I compost and recycle. But I'm in support of the 196 because, as some people, many of you might not know, and we've heard a lot about the small people that are picking it up now, they pay a tipping fee. I'm sure Cleve might speak to this, which is supposed to generate revenue for the county. They are picking up your garbage and taking it directly to Tallahassee. So you're paying them, and they're taking their money out of Wakulla County. And that actually, there are 3 major ones, and 2 of the 3 are doing that. Okay, and the other thing that is important to me is that recycling, as some of you recognize from Keep Wakulla County Beautiful, and I polled my board members with these because I want to truly represent how they feel about it. And recycling is important. And with the option, when people say, I say, why don't you recycle? People go, I don't want to have to take it anywhere. Well, as it stands now, there's a big problem with people not recycling in the county, and it is important, and you take it out there for free, but nobody wants to take it. Now you'll have the opportunity to have pick up at your door, which I appreciate. And the other thing is, totally lost my train of thought, sorry, that large items, that's it. The things that we clean up once a year or twice a year in the forest are your washing machines and your refrigerators, because when people haul those to the landfill now, they have to pay by weight. So it's a lot different for me to take my 2 bags of household garbage there now, and somebody says, I don't mind paying $8. Okay, fine. But he won't put that refrigerator in his truck and take it because you're going to have to pay big bucks for that. Now, those items will be picked up, and that you don't have to take it, and you don't have to illegally dump it, because there's going to be an option for you to legally get rid of it. And those are important issues and things that have not really been brought up in the information that the public knows. So, key things, they're leaving the county with your money and not helping the county out. So this company will be putting their money in the county. Big items. help us with the forest, big items. Thank you.
Thomas Johnson.
Good afternoon. I want to thank the Commission for allowing me. I got here a little bit late, and thank you for getting my card in. I oppose this proposal, and I'm somewhat baffled at many of the figures I hear. Some of them I don't believe. I frankly just flat out don't believe. One would be the example of the $400,000 in pickup from the forest. Being a member who work out at the landfill and see the individuals who bring in that kind of garbage, I hesitate to think that that's the price of that amount. But for this particular proposal, the individuals coming down more than 20 miles to pick up garbage here and then haul it back out here more than 20 miles, I believe the figures that you've been given will increase. I think I heard someone make mention before me that it will only increase, and the potential is high if we have an open door to, if gas prices increase, if any other cost increase for this company to come in to do this job. I believe we will. First the Commission will receive it, or Wakulla County will receive it, and then we will in turn, the people here, will receive those increases. In addition, I don't hear at all the understanding that if we went to a different proposal, we'll be upgrading the current facility. We'll be capping and closing off the landfill itself, but we'll be improving the facility that we have. And with those improvements will come more efficient pickup, as well more efficient hauling out. We won't have many of the costs that we incur now. From my understanding, the facility will not be in the mud that we're currently in, which will make repairs less. I believe the unit that we were considering will be much cheaper than bringing someone in-house to do so. Thank you.
Alfonso Guerrero.
Alfonso Guerra, 125 J.K. Moore Road. I oppose the proposal because, once again, it brings the potential of, or the likelihood that a large company squeezing out other local businesses will be able to raise rates, as the other speakers before me have indicated. We've seen this in several other instances in other municipalities where you have promises of low prices, of certain schedules being kept and budgets being met, and due to unforeseen circumstances, neither the business nor the government, as in the case of the BP oil spill or the big dig in Boston, is able to meet it, and so the local constituency has to bear the burden. And if this is approved, and as I suspect, prices are going to rise, it's going to be a intended cost saving which will actually blow up in the county's face. This is a case of pay me now or pay me later. And the continued presence of small businesses, several competitors for solid waste disposal in the county, will help keep prices low. Thank you very much.
Hugh Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, I agree with Commissioner Merritt and Commissioner Moore. And I'm conflicted. I am not here happily, believe me. Number one, I've seen what monopolies do. I've seen the history lesson of unfettered monopolies with no oversight, with rising costs, etc. What about our small businesses and our small business employees. Oh, well, they can hire on the big green truck, right? Jobs. Local jobs. Littering and recycling. I couldn't participate as much as I wanted to in the recycling committee, but I sure did with the littering committee, and as best I remember, most suggestions, again, wonderful oversight, too busy to hear. There's a lot you can do with litter, and I live on the litter road, and my wife and I are out there every weekend. I'm concerned about, I guess it was almost 4 years ago, and I started noticing $500 political contributions popping up and said, here they come. Out of town money, these guys take it out of town maybe for a reason, maybe not for a good reason, but I think they employ local people. And I don't know what the situation will be with Waste Pro. And Commissioner Merritt said a year or so ago, I'm out in the hall, or not too long ago, Commissioner, and I know I'm supposed to be addressing Commissioner Stewart, but that is just the beginning, I believe I heard him say, and believe me, from my experience, it is just the beginning. Thank you all.
Brock? Well, first, one of the major things I think that we have to make sure everyone understands is that this is mandated. We have a mandated choice. We have to do something different with the way we handle garbage in Wakulla County. And we're going to end up charging everyone a solid waste assessment in Wakulla County, one way or the other. The solid waste assessment we're going to end up charging you in Wakulla County is either of them can go up. They both go up over the same cost increments. With Waste Pro, we have a 10-year contract, so we don't anticipate it going up much at all. The way it could go up is consumer price index, or if the gas gets exceedingly expensive. But the other fee we will charge you will be tied to the same scales and can go up the same way. So I want to make sure everyone understands that it's going to be one of two options that we're making here tonight. What Commissioner Moore and Commissioner Merritt have suggested is that we will charge everyone $112 annually. And you will still be responsible for getting your garbage to the landfill. We will build a new transfer station at the landfill, and we will then transfer our garbage from Tallahassee, from Crawfordville to Tallahassee. If this passes and you currently have a garbage hauler, we're going to bill you $112, and if you choose to keep your garbage hauler, you will then have to pay them an additional fee to get your trash to the landfill. Let's say right now you're paying $25 a month, times 12 is $300 a year in garbage collection. Let's say that they lower those prices down to $250 or $240 a year. You then add that $112 fee on top of that, and you have a $362 annual garbage collection bill for half the county. So what Commissioner Moore is suggesting is people should pay more for garbage, and that their costs should go up in what they're paying. Whereas when I've looked at this and I saw that most people are paying, half the county that pays for garbage collection is paying $300 a year, and we can drop that down to $196, that's a cost savings for half the county right there. Then the other half of the county who isn't paying for garbage collection right now, they have the choice between the $112 and they still have to take their garbage to the landfill, or $196 and we come and pick it up at their house. So for $196, they will see a tangible change for their money. They will see people coming to their house and picking up their garbage and picking up their recycling.
You said they have a choice? They don't have a choice.
Right. No, I'm saying that you have the choice between $112 and $196.
We do.
We do.
Right. Not
So
citizens.
with the $196, they will see people coming to their house and picking up their garbage.
Right.
When $112, they would either keep doing whatever they're doing right now, which is probably, most of them probably take their garbage to the landfill and pay the tipping fee, which would no longer, with the $112, the one advantage is you no longer have to pay an additional tipping fee. Whatever you take to the landfill, there are no additional costs. Whatever your local garbage haulers are taking, there's no additional cost. That's how their prices will be able to go down. But with the $196, they're going to start seeing people come to their houses and picking up their garbage, so they'll see something for the money. That was because most people aren't going to notice when we're billing them $112 for a minimum of over 30 years. They're not going to notice the brand new transfer station and think, wow, that's a great investment I've made. Whereas if you're going to bill someone $196 and someone's coming to their house to pick up garbage, they're going to start to see that they're getting something for their money. Right now, you have a lot of people who take their garbage to Tallahassee illegally, burn the garbage illegally, bury the garbage illegally, throw it in the woods illegally. Those people, when they start paying the $196, will now have a garbage can at their house and be able to throw it into that garbage can, and hopefully will decrease these illegal behaviors. And I'm going to pass over to, I can talk, I've helped lead this effort for 2 years. We've not come to this decision easily. We had the $112 fee that came up last year, and it failed. Which is one of the reasons, and because of that, we did not correct some of the shortfalls we're having at our solid waste facility, our transfer station, and that's why our staff was furloughed this year, along with shortfalls in with wastewater and roads. So I think this year we're going to pass one of these fees, because the other option is paying fines. So we're going to pass one of these fees, and it just surprises me, especially from Commissioner Moore, who I know is committed to trying to save people money, that you would choose to add on to people's expenses versus lowering them. My last thing, and then I'll pass to Commissioner Arts because I saw her hand go up early. One of the things that's important to note about this, and what I think makes this such a, not a perfect deal, but a better deal and easier for the community, is that $196 includes a buyout for our local companies. They'll get 15 months gross receipts from what they've collected from the public. And you and I know that you can't live 15 years off 15 months money, but I'm hoping that that'll help with the transition. So a company, let's say a company like Quantum, who I know sent out letters, they say they have a little over 1,000 people. They'll get a check for, I think it's, and I'll have to do the math again, but I think it's $375,000 if they have 1,000 customers. It's $25 a month. It's not money to live off forever, but that will be money that they can then help with their staff and with their own transfer out of this goes on. And I'm hoping that will help with this process. And it makes it a little bit easier to swallow, knowing that that we can help these local companies as we try and help our whole community.
Okay, Ms. Hart?
Thank you, Alan. I think it is important for people to understand that this is a choice between a $112 assessment versus a $196 assessment. And I wish we had had a presentation that went through all the pros and cons. I know that we have a representative here from Waste Pro, and Cleve Fleming also has thought a lot about this. And I think the public should know our Public Works Director is recommending the 196 assessment with the countywide collection, even though that is not in the best interest of his company and his employees. But it's that clear to him that that's the best option for the county. And you know, he's risking even losing his job over it. So I think that, to me, that says a lot. But I would like to hear the representative from Waste Pro describe the proposal, what it is you're proposing to do in detail.
Can we finish, Ms. Hart, before you let somebody else speak?
Yeah.
Please.
Okay.
Let's handle it like this. And I want to get where you want to get to, Ms. Arts. The motion on the floor now is not to approve it. It's not going to change my mind to hear anything else. I know what I'm going to do, and we're the ones making the vote, not these folks. And I want to educate them but I think when we get the next motion on the floor, we can educate them.
I want to speak.
Okay, well,
too.
If you're assuming you know the vote. And I did read through the RFP, and for example, there are going to be 15 new people employed who are supposed to be Wakulla County employees. Now, I don't know the total number that's currently employed with the other waste haulers, but they're going to be given preferential hiring treatment. And I'm not so cynical to think that if they are good employees and they work hard and do a good job, that they aren't going to continue to be Waste Pro employees. So, okay, if you don't want to hear those presentations now,
I mean, I think the road we're going down now, we need to move ahead, and maybe we can cut some time here and accomplish what all we want.
Well, I just hated to see it get voted down without hearing it.
Not voted down yet, Miss Hart.
Okay.
Be optimistic.
Okay.
You probably could have saved time until I got started, but I'm going to get started anyway. Who's the Quantum representative here tonight? Who is that? Would you please stand? I have talked to 100 people in the last 2 weeks, and 96 of them said they could not do without the services of this person, of this service. This person comes to the back of their door. They come down the road. These are older people, and they're probably not people that's in the system, but they truly love the service that this lady gives, because she goes to their back door, she picks up their garbage, and 96 out of 100, that's not bad. Now, Junior, would you stand up, please? Junior has been my garbage person for 6 years. I came to town, built a house. Junior, I did have Waste Pro for about a week, and then I picked up Junior. And Junior handles my garbage for $25 a month. And as I went through the garbage that I brought from Georgia down here and handled 4 or 5 times to get into my house, I called Junior and I said, Junior, I got some trash I need for you to pick up. He came and picked it up. I called him again. 3 weeks later, he picked that up. I called him probably 4 times, and he picked his truckload, not just a garbage can. He brought a truckload with his daughter, picked my garbage up. A month later, I said, Junior, are you going to bill me? He said, no, that's just part of the service. Now, you can't meet that service. I don't care who you are. That's independent service. And when you talk about these garbage haulers that are here today, you talk about somebody else hiring them, that's just a joke. These folks are not going to work for anybody else. They only work for themselves. It's just like so many other people. They don't want to be hired by somebody. They want to run their own business, and if they take off a day, they can take off. But they're not going to work. They'll be out of a job in a week. But get into the garbage along the side of the road. You blame the garbage collectors for this. I see most of their trucks covered and whatever, but I'm telling you where all the garbage comes from the road. If you watch a boat pull out of the marina, he's got garbage flying up and down the road until he gets to Tallahassee. And when you see a pickup truck come out of a driveway, he's got garbage flying out of his truck all the way to Tallahassee. 90% of our garbage, I would think, comes off of boats and pickup trucks that are not covered. That's about all it is. But I'm going to vote against this. I want to stay local with the people who have a job. I had 3 people call me and said, these garbage haulers use my business. One said, I do $10,000 a year in repairs on their trucks. They buy tires, they buy gas, they do repairs. Junior's sending his kids to college. He's got a pickup truck with garbage on it, but his daughter's getting ready to graduate from nursing school. I'm going to support that.
Okay. Mr. Merritt?
My tact is a little different from what's been said here. 99% of my opposition to this is principle. Not saving jobs, that's a good bonus, but I don't think the government should be telling me or anybody else out here that they have to have garbage service. Let me give you an analogy, all right? Most people in this county have cable, probably, at least 50%. What if we went to Comcast and said, we're going to negotiate a good deal at Comcast where we only pay $200 a year instead of your $600, but everybody's got to have cable and everybody's got to pay for it whether you want it or not. That's not right. And that's what we're doing here. I don't have garbage pickup. This whole argument is predicated on everybody's got garbage pickup, you're spending $300 a year, you're going to save money. I take my trash to the dump, believe it or not. I'm going to, even at $112 a year, I'm going to save $30 a year. I don't think the government should be telling me that I have to have my garbage picked up. Now, Alan, the government is responsible for providing some place to dispose of your garbage. That's why I agree 100. I've supported this solid waste assessment. Cleve can tell you since the 90s probably. When Parrish was here, we brought it up over, and Mike, you remember that. I've always supported the assessment instead of the tip and fee system we have now. But I just strictly on principle, I don't think the government should be telling me or anybody else, you gotta do this, you gotta pay for it whether you want it or not. And that's what we'd be doing.
So, before we vote, because I know we're about to vote, I want to raise a couple more issues. We're going with this $196 fee. You can still take your garbage to the transfer station. You can ignore the people coming to your house to pick up your garbage.
How would anybody do that?
Well, that's a good question. If you have, but you will still have the option. We will not force you to use Waste
You got
Pro.
the option to waste money. I don't think anybody.
I'm not forcing you to. I'm just saying that when the choice is between $112
You know
and
my
$196,
You know my
you will still have the option in your free will to take your garbage to the landfill, to the transfer station. It's just, this $112 also includes the county borrowing $1.7 million. I had the same people call me. My phone has been inundated for over a week with phone calls from people from Quantum. My family uses Quantum because I went to school with Miss Mary's son, Richard. I consider them friends. That's why my family uses Quantum. But when I talked to those people and explained to them that there was an option of this fee or that fee, and this is what is covered, 90% of the people switched their opinion to say, I'd rather save money and get more services, and I'm glad you're doing the buyout for those local companies. And I've talked to the local companies, and many of them have told me that if we're moving forward, they'd like to see us move forward because they understand that this provides a certain amount of certainty. They know what's going to happen. If we move forward, they get bought out, they have closure, and they appreciate that. Versus if we move forward with $112, we're going to put in new regulations. We don't know what will happen there. And we don't know what will happen with new companies coming in Wakulla County who will be able to charge willy-nilly amounts of money, and they put all of their investment out. Because all of a sudden, I might go buy myself a VW van, and all of a sudden I can go fill that VW van up with garbage for $5 a month from people until I can collect it all up and throw it away. Because my only fee at that time is my time and my gasoline.
That's called capitalism.
That is called capitalism, but these companies have told me that they prefer the knowledge of knowing that they're getting bought out and getting the return on their investment, and they like this idea.
This is definitely the easiest option for us, at least short term. We're the ones where we're going to get the calls. Is this the easiest option? Absolutely, because we don't have to do anything.
This is it.
We don't have to figure out our own problems. We're going to say they figure it out. It's not our problem anymore. We're going to charge the citizens this assessment, and they're going to pay for it. I don't agree with it on principle. Period.
It's not.
I know I'm a Democrat,
option.
but
I know it's not.
And I'm not afraid to vote for taxes. Obviously,
the easiest option is leaving it the way it is, and us starting to pay fines or something.
No,
that's
not an option. That's not an option. You know it's not an option.
Okay. So, all the discussion from the board? The motion is to not approve awarding RFP to Waste Pro. Now, from what I can tell, I'm going to be the swing vote here, so I'll weigh in last and then we'll vote. And I have given this a great deal of consideration and study and losing sleep over. And I'm of the opinion, and I've always been a proponent of the $112 assessment. And looked here and told you, Alan, more than once that I can't imagine you're ever going to be able to get this thing done for under $250, $300 a year. And lo and behold, the company comes in, we get two bids, and both of them are under what I had ever anticipated it would be. And then the low bid was even lower. And then when I had questions concerning what that, just the idea about white goods and hiring people and buying out the workers, and so I asked all those questions, and all the answers I got were the answers that assured me that this was the right thing to do. 50. Let's just assume for a moment that 50% of the county, like Mr. Brock already said, and I'm going to say it again, gets their trash picked up, and they pay $250 a year. Like Mr. Brock said earlier, if we do the $112 assessment, you're going to get that added to it, so you're now up over, $350 a year, over $350 a year. What we're proposing to you is $196 a year. Now, the questions I've had that same 100 phone calls, probably from the same 100 people, Jerry, and I can tell you that I tried to call every one of them back. There's a few I missed while I was on vacation for a couple of days, but every one I called, I don't want to say 90%, but every one I talked to, when I explained to them all of the ramifications of the two options, they said, we like the $196 option best. This was people who had gotten that note from Quantum. Let's say it was 100 calls. I think it was more than that. They all rolled over and said, you're right, the $196 option is better because I'm going to pay less. The county's going to get their money. I mean, there's a lot of other things that the county that most citizens don't know about the trash business that may or may not need to be aired, and I don't care about airing all that dirty laundry about some of the haulers, but the point is that we have been carrying interest-free debt for many of the carriers because they haven't been able to make ends meet with the numbers they've been using. So I know that it's hard for you guys that are charging $25, $30 a month to pick up trash, and you're not making ends meet because you're not able to pay the county. And we cannot be in the business any longer of extending interest-free debt for y'all to haul trash. We just can't do it. I feel guilty for having already done that, and I think that's a bad policy that we've set, and that's where we are. With that said, I think with the $196, I agree with you, Randy. We shouldn't be dictating, and I've always said that. I thought it when Parrish brought it up before, but now understanding the dynamics of all these white goods that are in the woods, because I go and clean them up with kids. I see what happens in the woods. And I asked that question, how we're going to deal with white goods. That was the biggest issue I had, was I want a way that we can get refrigerators and stoves and couches and easy chairs and all that picked up, because they're ending up in the woods now because they don't want to take them over to the landfill. And I've been assured, and I want to hear that in the next presentation, hopefully the next motion, that we're going to hear the ways we're going to resolve that at no cost or little cost to the taxpayer. Also, I asked a question about, is the price going to go up? Or we're going to be able to regulate the price? And we're going to go into a 10-year agreement with these folks, guys, and it's going to be tied to the CPI. Well, all of us know how the CPI works, and it hasn't moved much, at least in the last few years, and probably won't for some coming time. But there is going to, there's fuel. We're going to hear all that. I hope we hear in this explanation next to answer the public's concerns about that. And I hate doing this. This is probably one of the most unpopular things we're going to do as a board. And well, you can say that, Mr. Moore, but in the end of the day, it's us. Okay, you can vote against it. You're right, and you can say that. But in the end of the day, you can blame me, and that's fine. I'll be the swing vote, and it'll be my fault. I don't care. I think it's best for the county. I think it's best for the citizens of the county. I think they're going to save money. I think that these people have an opportunity to hire on with these folks. I heard the comment that once you're a garbage man, you're always a garbage man, because I think that's uncalled for, because I think they're good people who can certainly go and do anything they want to do and put their mind to it. I was a garbage man when I started my career. I was the first garbage collector in this county, and I'm not a garbage collector anymore, but I can tell you that ought to hurt you guys when you hear that. So I hate that had to be said. But anyway, I'm going to vote against this motion, and then we'll entertain another motion. So all for the motion?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
You need to vote, Mr. Moore. Aye. So which is it? All right, let's re-vote. All for the motion?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, so the motion fails. I'll entertain a second motion.
Move to approve awarding RFP number 211-18 to Waste Pro for the county solid waste franchise hauler, and authorize the chairman and county attorney to negotiate a contract.
We have a motion.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Arts.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask just for one brief piece of clarification? The RFP that went out had 4 different options: residential only, and then residential and non-residential. I believe the discussion is centering around awarding the RFP for residential only.
Residential and non-residential.
You want residential and non-residential? Okay.
The other vendor said that there's only 2 vendors in the county, and he said he'd like to be bought out.
Now, Cleve, I'd like to ask you to come up and give us explain to us what's going to happen, and you've heard all the talk about. We're not going through this again. No, we're done.
The first thing is that your solid waste program should be an enterprise fund. In 2005, you finished with a positive cash flow of $230,000, but you were not funding you were not funding your escrow account. 2006, when DEP mandated you fund your escrow account, you finished in the hole $380,000 in 2006. 2007, 2008, basically we held that same number. 2009, it jumped up to $368,000 in the hole. In 2010, we're able to drop it to $310,000. During that time, we lost a $200,000 grant that was supplementing the solid waste program in the county, and you closed your C&D landfill, which meant that everything in Wakulla County has to be transported out. Recyclables, Class 1 household waste, and white goods, construction demolition debris, everything has to be transported out of this county. And if you look at the time frame, about 2005 coming forward, is about the time the fuel prices started going through the roof. And so your solid waste fund has not been an enterprise fund for a long time. Every audit I've been here since 2007, the very first audit I ever sat in on, the auditor complained or recommended you do something to the enterprise fund. We've been a lots of talk, and I'm like you, Commissioner Stewart, I'm not here to try to embarrass the local haulers, but I can assure you, if it hadn't have been for and I stuck my neck out for the local haulers, working with county commissioners, we could have put them out of business 3 years ago. I could put them out of business. This board told me to enforce our collection policies. Some of these haulers would not be in business tomorrow morning. We have an unregulated solid waste program. Anybody and his brother can collect solid waste. And but going with Waste Pro, the reason we kind of kept these smaller haulers in business is that if one of them failed, who's going to pick up the slack? There's not any one of those guys are big enough or have shown the financial means to, if one of them went out of business, 1,000 people weren't getting the trash picked up, but they had the ability to step up and pick those 1,000 people up. But it's totally unregulated. You know, you buy a business license, you're in the solid waste business. Going forward with the proposal from Waste Pro, you are the governing authority for the solid waste program. Every year, Waste Pro has to come to you and review their business plan for the next year, including the cost and what they've done last year. If you're not happy with their service, they're going to stand here where I am at tonight, and you're going to talk to them about it. But you've got to make a change. And Commissioner Art is correct. You know, I should be advocating the 112. The 112 helps me as I'm a contractor too. We've gutted our contract to the tune of $500,000 this year. We're going to cut it now another $300,000. I'm not sure what our future going forward with Public Works in Wakulla County would be, but I truly believe, and I've always gave this board and in previous boards, my opinion is based on what I felt best for 30,000 people that live in this county. And I do believe the proposal you got before you for Waste Pro creates a controlled or a governed body that's overseeing the solid waste program with a contractor who's got the capabilities to be more efficient to picking up waste and provide recycling. And I do believe that's going to help with the litter control, the dumping in the woods and recycling. I sit on meetings all the time about recycling, and we can't do much with recycling because we have no resources. We don't have any money. We don't have any way at all to pay to move our recycling program forward. Waste Pro would pick up your recycling at your front door once a week. It's taken to a recycling center where it is sorted. There's been an article in the paper recently about we don't recycle glass. Glass will be recycled from this point on at no cost. If we take it to landfill, we have to pay to dispose of it. So I do believe Waste Pro has a great proposal, and I do think it's time that the solid waste program in Wakulla County changes. I've been dealing with this program years before Commissioner Merritt. He's been involved in it, and your county has doubled in size, and it's time that you move your solid waste program to a different level. You cannot fund this program or move this program forward anymore by deciding whether garbage is worth $1 in a bag or $2. It just don't work that way anymore because the expenses are going up, and garbage will never get any cheaper. The fuel landfill space is a big issue. Waste Pro has a commitment for 80 years worth of landfill space, And so there's a lot to consider by going with a larger contractor who has the ability to handle your waste for a long time. Now, if I'll answer any questions y'all may have, or
Cleve, can you go through the associated cost that's going to be included in the contract, like landfill closure,
okay,
all that kind of stuff?
And what's going to happen to that grant, Cleve? Didn't we have some sort of grant for closure?
The grant has, what grant we had has been gutted from right at $300,000 to I think this year we're getting $70,000.
I'm talking about a closure grant.
USDA grant.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to let your guys here
I just want to make sure we're not going to lose that if we privatize
I'll
our
let Watt
collection.
handle that.
I think we're talking about two different grants, if I can interrupt. You're talking about the closure for the landfill, right?
Right.
That was a self-funded closure fund, like Cleve was
Well, I
talking about.
understand about the closure fund, but I thought there was a grant involved too for capping the Class 3 landfill, if I understand correct.
Walt Nickel, Jones.
But I don't want to confuse these issues. But go ahead. I want to just try to stay on what Waste Pro is going to offer and what we're voting on here. But go ahead.
My point was that we're not going to lose that grant if we privatize. If the answer is we're not going to lose it, that's all I need to hear.
That's not the answer I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
The grant came with a we got it when you'll talk about it.
Walt Nickel with Jones Edmonds and Associates. The grant that you have is with USDA Rural Development Fund. We had a preliminary engineering report that was done several years ago for closing the Class 3 landfill, building a new transfer station, and funding that through assessments, which established that $112 per month. That is that option. If any of those parameters change, it has to go back to USDA for them to reevaluate. We looked at different sources of funding a year ago, and if those things change, everything's on the table again for renegotiation. They could go away. That's not part of this privatized Waste Pro system. They're looking at, if the county's going to do this, what funds did you need to supplement that to make that successful? And USDA committed to $1.4 million low-interest loan and $750,000 grant for that. But that is for the $112 scenario, and that only.
And to get the grant, we had to borrow the $1.4 million.
Yes.
Without borrowing the $1.4 million, we did not get the grant.
True. The loan comes first, the grant comes second.
Okay. Okay, now back to the idea of those other costs that is going to be covered in this contract.
Okay, there is a franchise fee that will be that Waste Pro will be responsible for, and in that franchise fee, there's enough money to finalize the closure of the Class 3 landfill.
8%.
8%. Well, actually, it's going to be a little bit, maybe a little bit more, 8%, but it's still within the confine. It still works within with the number that we provided, it also pays for the long-term care of the 3 landfills that Wakulla County has. The citizens of Wakulla County own 3 landfills, and they will be responsible for them forever. We have to monitor them every year, and that cost is never getting cheaper. But we have to maintain that. I mean, we're maintaining landfills that have been closed for 30 years, and the county will continue to have to monitor those. With that, also Waste Pro will commit to make improvements to keep the transfer station open for drop-off services. They will be responsible for the compliance of the transfer station from this point on. They're even willing to transfer the permit into their name if it's possible. We have to look at it because the transfer station is tied into the Lower Bridge landfill permit, so these are some things we'll have to work at the very end.
Cleve, what about, if you don't mind, construction debris? You know, of course, we're dead right now. What if construction business comes back up? Are they going to be able to accept shingles, 2x4s, or will they go to Marpan, or can they go to Marpan if they want to? Where the tipping fee is only $35 a ton.
There will be they can receive the construction debris at the landfill. There will be a tipping fee for the commercial accounts. We haven't nailed down that cost. It'll be cheaper than the $85 a ton that we charge now, but the Waste Pro will have to transfer that out. I mean, they're going to truly have a transfer station where we're kind of storing waste on site, and Waste Pro is going to have the capability to transfer it out
Is there
a timely manner.
contract based on us enforcing our flow control ordinance saying no one can haul any construction debris out of, you know what I'm saying? If they set their tipping fee at $70 based on a certain number of tons per year assumption, I can go to Marpan, which I don't haul that stuff, but and pay $35 a ton. Is that, can contractors or homeowners still take their trash to Marpan, or do they have to bring it to the landfill?
Heather, we're going to have a flow control ordinance, so I guess the answer to your question is that we will control the waste leaving this county.
You currently have.
We have one, but we don't really.
It's not enforced.
Right.
Whether that would apply to C&D is probably something we need to discuss.
I mean, if it doesn't matter to them, if their dollar amount over that 10-year contract really doesn't care whether or not a certain number of tons of C&D comes in, then it doesn't matter.
The situation we have, and the reason I can't answer some of these questions, until the board either accepts or rejects Waste Pro's proposal, I can't really talk specifics to them.
I understand.
So if the gentleman from Waste Pro is here, and if y'all would like him to talk some of the specifics,
I'd like
to ask him some questions.
When people ask me questions, I like to answer.
Commissioner Merritt, let me just answer what you were talking about. With a Class 3, the C&D, and yard trash, whatever, we didn't really contemplate anything flow control from there. We got the county's C&D Class 3 tonnages for a year. It was about 100 tons. It's not a lot. And really what we have to look at is, we're going to have to keep a person there and spread those costs, basically. But we didn't really contemplate any type of flow control. If it comes in, fine. If it doesn't, that's fine. That's fine. But what we would be accepting, it would be the Class 3, the C&D, tires, batteries, used oil, the things that you're accepting right now. We would just manage that for you.
That was my question. Yeah. If somebody could take it somewhere else cheaper.
Sure.
Of course, I don't support this whole thing. No offense, but
no, that's fine.
At least
I'm taking
get the best deal.
Yep.
And don't we take white goods for free right now? Yes. All right, I thought so.
You pay us a You pay us a service fee of 8%.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Is that what you're talking about? And I think I heard you say that the increase would be based on the CPI.
Yes, sir. But I think what we're voting on right now is to negotiate a contract, which means your county manager can come to me and we work that out. Now that he may say, and I'm not negotiating right now, but he may say, hey, cap the CPI at 90% of CPI. I mean, that's
not really, he shouldn't do that.
Well, my only point is that's where we're at right now, I think, is to try to hammer out something that everybody can live with.
Do you generally have a separate item for fuel adjustment? Is that?
Yes, sir. We try to get that. Usually, we would say like 90% CPI, 10% fuel. That's kind of our cost component, 10% on the fuel.
Is that indexed to the DOT standard for fuel?
We can index it to whatever you want to index it to, actually. There's a lot of different things you can tie that to.
So you can actually have an increase in your CPI, and you can have an increase in your fuel adjustment.
Yeah, but the fuel adjustment at 10% is not a big component. It could be 15 cents a month, or it could be 10 cents a month. It's not a full. We're not doing fuel on top of CPI. We're pulling part of that component out.
And just as a side note, I think it's important to note that those same cost increases would happen with the $112 fee.
And understand the increases, if I'm right, Cleve, any increases that are, they have to be, the board has to approve cost increases, is that right? I want to make sure the public understands that we have oversight. This is a governmental oversight of, it's not just like we're handing this off to some, willy-nilly way of doing business, but the government, the county commission will still have oversight of the contract, and we can change it. Obviously, it had to be negotiated, but and it's for a 10-year term. Anyway,
I'm not want to beat a dead horse, but I'm going to vote against it just on the principle. I don't think the government should be telling us.
And I appreciate that.
And I'll ask a funny question. We had a single hauler the earlier time, and
we never had a single hauler.
No.
Well, who was it pulled out?
Waste Management was a private hauler like our local haulers.
Nobody's ever done this.
Yes.
And okay.
Yeah.
Ever. right. Any other questions? Ms. Arts, did you want anything else explained?
Well, I guess I feel like people who are listening still don't have a real good understanding of what the service is that they're going to receive, because I'm still getting lots of questions from people about concerns and about the bulky items and how all that's going to work.
Can you explain what a weekly collection would be and what that entails?
And long driveways, too. I've had a lot of questions about that.
Okay.
Private driveways.
Okay. Well, I mean, open up a lot of good questions. First of all, the basic service is once a week garbage, once a week recycle. With a garbage, you'd have a 96-gallon cart or a 64, but essentially 96-gallon cart once a week, which is what a lot of the haulers are providing and we're providing right now. The recycling, you'd have an 18-gallon recycle bin. If you recycle more than that, we'll provide you whatever you need. Now, we have to use those bins. Part of the RFP mentioned something about maybe up to 96 gallons recycling, and we have to be able to see as we pick through those bins, see what we're doing, because if you throw it all in one bin and we pick it up like that, first of all, it's single stream and there's nobody that can process that. But second of all, you get a lot of contamination in there. So if somebody wants 2 bins, 3 bins, that's 18 gallons, that's 36 gallons, 54 gallons a week. That's a lot of capacity, but we still need to be able to pick through and make sure that what's going in there is what's supposed to be going in there. So as far as the bulk pickup, that's, I believe, once a month bulk pickup. And some of the haulers are already doing this, but running rear loaders. We run rear loaders. We can pick up a lot of the bulk. If somebody puts a couch or a chair or a barbecue grill out there, I mean, just put it out on your service day. We'll pick it up. White goods would need to be called in because we need to pick that up, especially anything like a refrigerator that has Freon in it. We can't pick that up and crush it into the packer. But we normally, as we go down the street, we just pick up everything. Now, if somebody, takes a whole house out there, that's a different story. We have to look at that, and we'll discuss that with the county and come up with something there. But generally speaking, bulky items are picked up. It does provide for elderly folks, us picking up side door, back door. That was one of the concerns you had mentioned about. I mean, we're essentially doing the same thing. We're going to pick up what's out there. Commissioner Merritt, you had one other question.
Just another one popped in my head, if you don't mind. Alan included commercial in his motion. What does this mean for someone like Walmart that has their own compactor or Ace Hardware?
Right.
Are they going to be forced now to go with Waste Pro?
Well, there are four options altogether, and really I think that's can still be negotiated whichever way we want to go there. When I originally looked at this, I'm a hauler just like every other hauler out here, and I had concerns. I've talked to several board members. I had commercial contracts, but as the county attorney, I started thinking about this, and I said, well, I see what you're doing. I mean, one of the options is to try to get the MSW closed down and get the MSW hauled out of the county. And after I thought about that, I thought, you know what, that's probably a pretty good idea to have that option open there. When Waste Pro bid this, there was a clause in the contract that said, hey, if you bid this, you forego your displaced hauler rights. So I had a lot of soul searching to do myself with my company to say, if we place a bid, we take a chance on not getting the 15 months. We were entitled to the 15 months just like anybody else would be, and still would be if something else changed. So, but I commend you on that. You kept, saying, hey, we need to have this one option. And so, we bid all the options, but basically the 4 options are really on the table to negotiate.
I guess the tricky part is if Waste Management comes in, say, and undercuts you cheaper on commercial. With the front loaders or whatever, you still have to provide them a place for them to dump. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And in the transfer proposal, if you do elect to do that, we will modify your existing transfer station to continue to be able to accept MSW. That's correct. Are you
going to keep using the compactor? Are you going to go to open top containers? Or
Commissioner, it really depends on what we've got. Probably, if one of the options is to let the commercial stay open, I mean, we would probably just continue to use what we have. We would probably modify it. We need to look at that compactor. I know it's an older compactor. We may need to look at the cylinders and do some things there, but we may come up with a little bit different system. But in that scenario, we would in this motion.
I'm sure you're aware leachate is probably the worst problem out there. Cleve can tell you that.
And you're going to take over all of that. I mean, you're going to revitalize that place out there
Yeah.
to make it work? You're going to take over the DEP mandated issues we have?
Commissioner, what we asked to do, or what we said we would do, is up to $100,000 in fixes there, Chairman, excuse me. But that's what we said we would do. We'll work with you. I don't know that it'll take that much to kind of retrofit and do the things we need to do. I do know if we haul the residential out of county, I mean, it's going to cut the amount of MSW going through that transfer station tremendously. And I'm looking potentially 60 tons a month. That's just not a lot of MSW to go through that that transfer station. So regardless, if we're awarded the residential piece of this, and we intend, to haul it out of county, there's not a lot left after that. There's between the C&D, the Class 3, the MSW, we're looking maybe 160 tons, which, when you look at that, that's 5 or 6 tons a day of material coming in.
And the tipping fee for commercial, sorry, Alan, is that part of the contract to be negotiated? I've heard $70 a ton thrown around.
We had thrown in 75, Commissioner Merritt, but I'll tell you, there's some things we can look at there. Does the county want, do you want, 5-day service from Tuesday to Saturday like you had? Could it be cut down to, like a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, or a Monday, Wednesday, Saturday? All those would be negotiable, because, again, I'm not, if we have 160 tons and I've got somebody I'm paying, let's just say, $3,200 a month with benefits and everything, well, that's like $20, right there. I mean, there's just not a lot of tons to spread that over. So a lot of that stuff is negotiable.
Again, my question was specifically about contractors. If the housing industry ever does come back,
if they want to carry it out, that's fine. That's totally fine.
they can take it to the land.
They've got the option to take it to the transfer station or haul it out.
To answer, I appreciate that, Ralph. But to make clear that we all understand, to do what you're talking about, we're going to have to change our rules that we have in place right now that says they have to take it to our landfill. So right now, Ralph says that he's not making his budget off of contractors bringing garbage to him, C&D, construction and demolition, but we're requiring that goes to him. So I'm just as a note, we'd have to change that. My question that I wanted to ask was, you've had a lot of people, and Commissioner Arts started touching this, and we've all talked about it, discuss how some of the things we're doing for the displaced workers. I just thought maybe if you could touch on that a little.
One of the things, and one of the tough things about something like this for somebody like me, I've been in this business almost 30 years, and the Boutons back here, I've known the Boutons. I knew their husband Marcus. Marcus and I worked together back in 1984 in Tallahassee in the garbage business. So, I mean, I know a little bit about this, but what was your question? I'm sorry.
Displaced workers.
Oh, the displaced. We would absolutely take displaced workers. This is not Waste Pro is a big company, but it's not a big multinational conglomerate. One of the things that we talked about was the fuel and utilizing folks in the county. We can do all that. If you want to put that in something, I don't have a problem looking at it. Displaced workers, it's a very special bunch that get up early in the morning, work all day, in the hot sun and do this. We would welcome them, and I've had some conversations with some of the contractors that are doing it right now, and I would welcome their folks with open arms. A lot of these guys and gals know this county a lot better than I do. I can tell you that right now. There are places that I'd get lost once I got outside of Sop Choppy, but that's something that's learned over a long time, and that's something that I would certainly want to utilize. Now, for me to say, I don't really know how many haulers are out here, how many folks pick up garbage. For me to sit here and say every one of these folks are going to have a job, I don't know that I could tell you that. But I mean, we are going to have, as Commissioner Arch said, probably 15 plus people, and we would give first benefits to Wakulla County. And that's not me saying that and turning around and saying we're not going to do it. I mean, that's what we're going to do. If we tell you we're going to do that.
And how long have you been providing service in Wakulla County already?
Well, I was with the previous company, the big company, and that was back in the early 90s, I guess, when I first started, providing service here. But with Waste Pro since probably April of 2007, about April of 2007, I would say. So about 4 years, a little over 4 years.
Previous company was Waste Management, right?
Yeah, that's the biggest one.
Okay, Ms. Hart.
Yeah, could you talk a little bit, people are concerned about the trucks going on their roads, especially smaller dirt roads.
Right.
Could you talk a little bit about what you're going to do with that?
Yes, ma'am. One of the things that what the county wanted was they wanted to have trucks that were under 26,000 pounds gross vehicle weight, and a couple of reasons. Commissioner Merritt, you talked about drives. I don't, with a small truck, I don't have a problem doing it as long as a customer doesn't have a problem with me doing that. But we can go up into drives, we can go up in a lot of places with those smaller trucks that we can't, take a big truck into. So, that's one of the things that we, included in our proposal, that we were going to have smaller trucks that could go up into some of these holes. Generally speaking, and we do other counties in the state of Florida and Georgia and other different places, but generally speaking, what you're asking for is if a postal carrier can get to the front door, we can get a truck to get there. Now, if a postal carrier, has a bunch of post boxes, on the main road and really can't get down there, we probably can't get down there. But generally speaking, we can get in most places that the mailman can go.
So when I say end of driveway service, I'm sorry, if you have a half-a-mile driveway, it's non-county maintained, your mailbox at the road, y'all are still going to go up to the house, or do they drag the can out to the road?
I don't have a problem doing that with a smaller truck, but I will have somebody sign a waiver. I'm not going to go, if somebody's got an old driveway, and if it breaks when I put that, even the smaller truck, there's a chance that will happen. I don't have a problem going up there and looking at that.
And it depends on the circumstances, Joe.
Sure.
Well, people can leave their can out at the street and put it in an enclosure if they want or whatever.
When you start looking at something like this, there's going to be a ton of little special things. The way the haulers have done this before, they've gone over and above, and there are things that they've been, that they've done, and you just have to try to address every one of them. You may not address every one of them to the satisfaction of everybody, but you try to make that effort and address any kind of collection issues like that, and try to work with a customer.
I have 3 questions that relate to kind of money, especially down the road. And first, I know you came in with a proposal that was lower than a lot of people were expecting. If we wanted to lower it substantially further, what could we do with, what would you suggest we could do as a way to lower it?
I guess we just need to sit down, if I'm allowed to sit down and work something out with a county manager, we can work through some things there. I can't just sit up here in a public meeting and say we can do this and offset this, but I do think that if you want to look at doing something like that, I'm sure there's some things we could look at. But again, what we're looking at is to be allowed to try to negotiate with the county. The county may say, after what you're voting on, you may say, you know what, this, it's good, but it's not quite what we want. You still have that option at this point. Even if you vote tonight to negotiate with Waste Pro, you still have that option.
Right. Well, I would encourage you, we put out an RFP based on what we thought we wanted and could afford and what other counties had done, but if, given your experience, you have some efficiencies that could bring the price down, please put them on the table.
Well, the efficiencies that we get with two things. When we're looking at a bid, basically what I'm looking to do is to try to, capture my capital back, my free cash flow. And by extending this out 10 years, I was able to get the rate significantly down. If this had been a 5-year agreement, I could not have done that. You wouldn't have started, at that. But we were able to spread that out farther there. But there are a lot of different things that we look at. The mandatory, not having the collections, not having to build, not having to collect. That came into play as far as the price. But there's a lot of different variables in the pricing that you're looking at. But I can tell you that we sharpened our pencil to get to the number that we're at right now.
Okay, my second issue, I know there's been some conversation about the title to the landfill, and I also hear people talking about in the future we're going to be mining landfills for all the metals and everything that's in there, and we have, so I don't know what the potential is, but I just want us to be careful about not giving away things that might have future value. So
you retain ownership of the landfill. You retain ownership of that, of everything out there. Everything out there you retain ownership of. What we had talked about was potentially transferring us taking the transfer of the permit itself, which we've done at other municipalities like that. And essentially what it means is we're running it every 5 years. We have to go to DEP and say, here's what we're doing. We're going to make a modification, but we in no way own the landfill. What we're saying is we would get the permit put in Waste Pro, Florida, and we would manage that, run that landfill for you.
The other thing I was asked is about...
Just one quick clarification. That's for the transfer station.
Yeah.
Okay. It was
if you could give away the landfill, that would be wonderful.
Yes.
But the county would never. But we're talking about the component outside the closed cells.
I got you. And then the other question, somebody asked me who gets the rights to the recyclables.
That would be me.
Okay.
Yep, that would be me. That's one of those variables when you're looking at trying to sharpen your pencil, and I'm taking the burden there because right now the cost of recyclables or paper is at a good high right now. But if it goes down, then I have had times where I actually have to pay to drop off recycling, and there are still places where I would, if I went there, I would have to pay right now to drop off recycling. So I'm bearing all that risk on that. So yeah.
Okay.
Okay. One last thing I'll say, and we'll vote. In my opinion, the $112 option is just a Band-Aid. It's going to carry us for a while and do the short-term fix, but I think we'll be back again with a future board dealing with the same issues again and having to either increase that $112 or to some degree. And the other is that we're going to finally get into the 21st century with recycling. That's all we hear, and rightfully so, for our environment, is that we need to recycle, and that's important. And this is the way to do it. We're not able to do it efficiently and effectively now, and I think we need to move in that direction. Any more discussion by the board?
I just want to thank Commissioner Brock for being the champion of this and doing all the research and hard work that he's done.
Yes, thank you. I would have never guessed we'd have been here today about to approve this, but and I know you're not going to vote for it, but I think in the end this is one of the and it's not going to be popular. It's just like a lot of other things that we do that aren't popular, but when I explained it to the public, the light came on for them, and they understood that sometimes you have to do things that you don't like to do that are good for the community, and I think this is one of them. So, and I'm looking for a good relationship with Waste Pro, and by the way, they also told me that there's going to be a methodology that we can monitor the complaints. We can, as a commission and staff, and if we don't like what they're doing, then we're going to take them to task. That's another thing that we can do as a board, and so we can, if the issues get out of hand, then we can do that.
If they do get out
no, sir, you're not welcome to speak. Stop, please. Randy, you had something?
I guess Mr. Barden will be the point man for complaints when this does go through. I think we at least need to set up some short-term methodology where citizens can call. Not necessarily you, but you're going to get a flood of calls. That's all I'm trying to say. We need to be ready for that.
Well, just like the assessment we did last year, we had a phone line set up that will be receiving calls. Once the notices go out, we expect to get a lot more calls. So we'll definitely be able to answer questions as they come.
I think it's going to work, and you're right. There's going to be some growing pains at first.
And I think we also need to be more proactive and put information out for the community, whether Jessica or however we can do it, so people understand what all the...
What I would ask us to do, maybe make one change to the motion, is it says authorize the chairman. I would appreciate it if we could make Alan that. He's certainly... I don't mind doing it, and I'll take the time to do it if y'all direct me to do that, but...
I think we should stick with you doing it. No offense, Alan, that's just the way we've always done it. He'll have his chance to look at it.
Okay, I'm fine with it. Okay, y'all come
back. How about both of you?
And it's going to come back to the board for final approval.
There was a vote recently that you didn't go with, but you agreed with and moved on. That's how I'm going to handle this. I'm not going to vote for it, but I'll deal with it.
Well, I appreciate that. Okay, all for the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 3-2. Okay, let's finish up general business. I think we got one more item, and then we'll get on to citizens
We
be
need
heard.
3 more.
2 more.
2 more?
But they should go quickly.
Okay, let's go.
Next item is tab 14. This is a related item to the solid waste discussion you just had. It's board consideration of adopting the initial assessment resolution for solid waste. It's going to be collection, management, and disposal based upon the last vote. This is where you are setting the $196 per dwelling unit rate for residential. Non-residential will have to be direct billed by the hauler. This sets your public hearing preliminarily for September 6th. If you want to have a special meeting for that, you would need to amend the motion and choose an alternative meeting date. It needs to be before September 15th.
Move to adopt the initial assessment resolution for solid waste management, collection, and disposal services.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Did y'all want to do this on a different day, or do you want to do it at a county commission meeting? That's the only question.
Do it at a meeting.
Okay, cool.
It's fine with me.
This is part of me moving on. I'm going to vote for this.
Okay. Citizens be heard. Howard Kessler.
Howard Kessler, 251 Levy Bay Road. Just one issue in the discussion you were saying that you were giving yourselves 2 choices and then laid out the choices. I'm not really speaking to that. I'm speaking to the amounts of money. The 196 and the 112. There were other choices. There were choices to make cuts. And that still is something this board has to deal with. Thank you.
Mary Bouton.
I just wanted to say that I own Quantum Service. My husband and I started this business in 1996. We still have lots of the customers that we have been with us since 1996. If people are unhappy with us, they have a choice now to get another hauler. But if you all pass this like you did, then they won't. They'll have to take whatever comes. And I understand that you all were going to buy out the business owners, but what about the people that work for us? That's not doing anything for them. And my people have worked for me for like 12 and 13 years. They don't miss work. They work hard. The customers like them. And I think that it's bad to take out of the county because the Chamber of Commerce is saying shop local, 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 local. I buy my gas and diesel here. I bring all my garbage that I pick up to the landfill. My people buy their groceries here and everything. They support the county. And now the county is going to cut their throats. Thank you very much.
Okay. Any more discussion?
Again, since this board's already decided the direction to proceed down, and this is procedural to me.
Okay. All for the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next.
Commissioner, last item under general business is to request board approval for Government Services Group, GSG, to develop the tax roll, prepare first-class mailing notices for the solid waste assessment, which we determined will be 196. They'll prepare the notice. They'll prepare the tax roll, so all property owners are noticed properly.
Move to approve the cost proposal for Government Services Group to develop the tax roll and prepare the mailings for the solid waste assessment.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Again, my comment on this, would be if in the future, if there is a way to do this via trim notices, maybe that's a little cheaper, just in the future.
I have one statement.
Okay.
Commissioner, we're already working with property preparation and tax collector to go through that method next year. Since it's a new notice, we couldn't get it on trim. We have.
I understand.
We have a company here in the county, CSG, out on the east in Opportunity Park. They do mailings. They have a government liaison who will come discuss with you the cost of preparing this sort of thing.
I think that's who we're voting on doing it, right?
No, probably not.
This is GSG.
GSG. Oh,
we have a CSG who I would like for you to check with, because they do a different type, but they do now have a governmental person who will bid on this kind of whatever. So,
Okay.
I can give you the name.
I'd like to try and use them in the future. I think we might be facing a time crunch.
Okay, good
on this,
enough.
on this
Yeah, I
point.
mean, GSD's kind of already had their hands
All right,
in it.
good enough. But in the future,
Absolutely.
when we do mail-ins, this company is local and they need the business.
That's a really good suggestion.
They're a national
Yes,
company.
absolutely.
Do we need to, and this is a question, can we include, and maybe it's for Heather, a fact sheet of what this fee will cover?
I'm sure you can. I don't know why you wouldn't be able to.
Alan would be a good one to develop that.
And I'll be glad to work with somebody, but I think we should put something in there with the notice, what the fee will cover, just so people understand that it's not just another new, it's going to be a new tax, but it covers something, and I want people to understand what they're getting.
Just don't say it's state mandated, because it's.
I think we prepared something similar last year for the 112, so we can definitely include that and put it on our website.
Okay. Ralph Thomas, you have a comment on this?
We have to make a change.
Ralph Thomas, 637 Hunters Trace. I appreciate the comment about shopping local. There's another local business represented in the room tonight that your proposal says $1.30 times 12,100 mail-outs. She'll do that for $1.15, and she can work under your time frame, and she's used to dealing with a lot larger volume of what you're looking at here. So I understand that your rules allow this to be a no-bid contract, but we need to somehow get in the mindset of taking care of people in this county, shopping local. She'll save you money. You'll probably save a couple $1,000s using her business there. I've got no interest in that business other than the fact that I want people to spend their money here because they roll over and get reinvested here. And it's a little frustrating that we keep going out and we just completely overlook the opportunities that's right here. So maybe no one knew about that. I ask you to definitely pursue that and see if we can keep that here. We're going to save money and we're going to add to jobs here, and that money's going to stay in this county. Thank you.
I would like to apologize also that I didn't mention your company.
Well, I think I talked to Shannon about this.
It's more than just mailing. It's not just a mailing.
A lot of bulk mail.
It's not just mail though. It has to be. It's a tax roll that has to be generated.
Right.
Okay.
I understand.
Well, and what we'll do, and because of the time crunch, I don't think we have time to do it this time, but we do several, at least one of these mailings every year. I'll encourage us to look at maybe putting it out to bid next year and seeing what comes back.
Absolutely.
Okay. Good idea. Okay. Any more discussion? All for the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
That's it on general business, sir.
Okay. Citizens to be heard. Howard Kessler.
Howard Kessler, 251 Levy Bay Road. So, what I've been speaking about, and I'll continue to speak about it, is there's two sides to the issues of all of these issues and all of these proposed taxes that are coming forward. And there's a side that is the tax or the fee side, and there's a side that is the cutting of expenditure side. And when we look at things and we say, like we just had this evening with the fire department, and we were the one that caused the situation that had to be rectified tonight, the board, by taking away, lowering their MSBU, and at the same time taking out of their well-managed funds to pay something that used to come out of the general fund. At the same time, we didn't properly compensate what needed to be done to make them whole. So every time we're looking at these fees, and that's what I meant before when I said the two choices of numbers, 112 and 196. I know there's two different things that we're talking about, but both of those numbers could have been different had we kept on banging away at the expenditure side. And that's my message. Thank you.
Hugh Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. topic's about open government tonight. There are basics to open government. We need public access to records, meetings open to the public, properly noticed with proper agendas. Recently we had an open government situation that really has bothered me, and something that strikes a blow to citizens' basic constitutional guarantees. Goes to the basics. It's about prior restraint, the act of banning a subject from being spoken about before it's even brought up. Stopping anyone from speaking prematurely is wrong. No one on the dais knows what's going to be said by anyone. But if it's a commissioner and they know what will be said, it's not only wrong, it might possibly be illegal. A couple of meetings ago, the chairman attempted to silence citizens and Commissioner Moore when they tried to speak. I obtained a copy of what Mr. Moore wrote. Here's some of it, but only some of it. It would appear that for the past 2 years we have had horrible leadership. I'm assuming it was relative to the budget, but he never got a chance to say. He was silenced. If it's about the budget, I disagree, would challenge the statements, and would love a number of conversations on that topic. I'd be happy to talk about the 7 out of 8 times Commissioner Kessler voted against the bloated budget, or we could talk about what you all are doing in raising the cost of 2 citizens while you talk about lowering taxes. So let's do talk, and talk freely. That's what these meetings are supposed to be about. Thank you.
Bill Russell.
Commissioners, the firefighters of Wakulla County, not the volunteers or the paid, the firefighters of Wakulla County, are having the 2nd annual charity barbecue contest, and our charities will again be the Richard Ray Scholarship Fund and the Camp Amigo Children's Burn Camp, like they were last year. We are asking that the Smoke and Fire Charity Barbecue Contest be given exclusive use of Hudson Park on Saturday, October 1st, and that the Commission waive any rental fees associated with the event. Last year we raised $1,000 for each charity, and if you'll waive these fees, it'll help us do even better this year. And one of my chiefs over there just gave the county attorney one of our flyers, and she turned around and became a silver level sponsor. Thank you very much, and the kids will thank you too. And that's all I'm asking. I don't know if I went about it the right way or not, but if you could bring it up and do something about it, please.
Okay. All right. Not at this point. If a commissioner wants to bring it up here at the end under his items, he can.
I think we'll have you ask votes. So.
Okay. But yes, we can. I mean, the right way to do it was the county administrator can waive those fees. He could
Just bring it to me. We'll look into it. Absolutely.
Okay. Moving on. Commissioner agenda items, and the only one is mine, and it's a request for board approval of a resolution requesting FDOT to construct the Highway 319 construction project during nighttime. As you all know, it's the little bit of project we've been doing up here. It's going to be a continuation of that. In fact, it's going to back up to the south to McDonald's and go all the way to the county line. I've talked to DOT at District 3 in Chipley, and they're very receptive. They just need to do the work at night. In fact, they can get more hours in at night and be more productive, and they like the idea. We just need a resolution saying that.
You need a motion?
Move
you
to
have
approve.
a resolution? Or?
Yes.
Move to approve
It's
the
attached.
resolution requesting FDOT to construct
Second.
the Highway 13 construction project during nighttime.
Motion and a second, and I'll send that off tomorrow. I'll get staff to do that. All for the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. County Attorney?
Nothing today.
County Administrator?
Just two quick announcements, Mr. Chairman. Just to let you know, I sent you an email earlier last week that we reduced the furlough days from every week to every other week. So it'll just be one per pay period. We're trying to keep it the same schedule we advertised, so we'll be closed on the 5th of August as well as the Friday before Labor Day.
And it is now automatically coming out of our checks, just so everybody knows. If an employee takes a furlough day, we
County Commissioner.
automatically.
We're the only constitutional officers that are, by the way.
If you want to call it furlough, we don't get paid that day. Let's put it like that.
Okay.
I'm hoping we can dial them back even further. I hope we don't have to dial them up. So just kind of give you an update on that. Second thing is just a reminder, we have a workshop this Thursday. Three workshops actually. One for the Blueprint 2000, the fourth budget workshop or development workshop, and the presentation from FGUA regarding our sewer ownership. So just want to give you a reminder.
Okay. And discussion issues, Mr. Brock?
A couple of things. I know we all got emailed by a citizen about a committee on public participation. I'm looking into that. Also, we've gotten a lot of talk about Tourist Development Council lately. One of the things that I think, and I've checked with the county attorney, and Pam wasn't in her office today, but we probably do need to update her contract, so we'll probably be bringing that up just to make it more clear on a little bit of vagueness. And I'd ask, and I don't know, I might need to make a motion for this one. Opportunity Florida presented it earlier today, and I'd like to see that it brought back as an agenda item for us to vote on, whether we want to move forward with that or not. And I guess I'll make that as a motion. I'd like to make a motion to bring back the Opportunity Florida.
You want to put it on your agenda item?
Yeah, you can do that.
I'm just going to let staff bring it back.
Okay, that's fine.
Make a motion to bring back Opportunity Florida for us to either join or not join. I'm so moved.
We can bring it back an item.
I'll second it.
Okay.
All for the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank y'all.
Mr. Mary?
I wanted to bring up our audit committee again. They gave us an extensive list of recommendations. You know, these were clerk, sheriff, Donnie, several other people, and I just wanted to be sure we include these recommendations as we move forward, especially with David coming on. And you know, I talked to Tim about some of these, and rightfully so. I don't think he wants to make any decisions on some of these. I don't blame him. I think I'd let the next guy figure that out, but I don't want this to fall by the wayside. Just a lot of work went into this, and
be a good workshop.
Well, some we've already instituted.
I understand.
Most of those are decisions by the board. I mean, that we're going to have to make, not administration.
I understand.
One or two is his, but the rest of them are purely
like requiring a certain minimum on our reserve,
right,
so forth, and things like that. But there are some things that are either could be proposed by administration and brought to us for approval, but as long as somebody picks the ball up, and that's my whole point, is we don't just drop the ball. This was done, let's take it seriously and move on.
Do you want a workshop on it?
No.
You have one there on collections, just for the
collections of
for the ambulance emergency service or whatever, where we go to a different collections method.
Right.
He's working on that.
I think that's all being taken care of by them. I don't want to get involved in that.
We're going to be issuing an RFP for collection services yet. We're working on a fund policy, a new draft fund policy for you guys to approve. So some of those items are in the works, absolutely.
Yeah,
some of them I do want to defer to David when he comes on board. I'll let him make that decision. But the other ones, like I said, are totally up to your discretion.
And the audit committee, if they want to keep meeting, they you know, that's, I really think a lot of these, we need to wait till David gets here.
Yes, I will not be able to attend the workshops on Thursday, so Jessica is going to look into whether there's a way for me to at least listen in by phone. If not, I'll listen to the recording of it afterwards, so I apologize for that. I'll miss y'all, but I won't be here.
It's our final budget.
I can't believe, Ms. Archie, you're missing the workshop.
I know, I've only missed one other.
It's the final one we have scheduled. You can have as many budget workshops as you like, Commissioner. So that's the final one that we have scheduled for the budget. So.
Anything? Yeah.
Oh, I read one more thing.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Archie.
Okay, and I wanted to make a couple comments kind of following up what Dr. Kessler said. You know, a lot of people both on the board and off are urging us to make cuts. And it's interesting if I try and think about what we would have done to our solid waste program to have made cuts to. First, we're losing money. So, you know, how would we stop losing money? And it's like we could have cut the landfill hours pretty drastically and closed the Smith Creek and these Otter Creek facilities, but it's very difficult to see, what in terms of personnel at the landfill or ESG contracts, what we could have done to make cuts that would have made that fund whole, plus paid for the things like the monitoring and the capping that needed to be done. And I actually see the 196 as making cuts because we are reducing our debt burden and our, we're going to be taking out less loan, so paying less interest over time. We're stopping the hemorrhaging from this losing solid waste program. We're also no longer going to be operating a transfer station, so that's a cut each year of $400,000 that was part of our annual budget that we've now just eliminated.
I would consider the elimination of a loss, not necessarily. I understand what you're saying. It's like taking a negative out of the equation. It at least goes back to zero.
Helps your revenue, right. So anyway, it's interesting, and maybe we need further discussion about, and in general, that's something I would like from the board too, is because if you're going to say, no, I don't want to support this, whatever, tax or assessment, what I would really like to hear are some specifics like, okay, well, if we don't do the assessment, here's how I would come up with the 500,000 or $1 million or whatever that assessment would generate. So, it's real easy to say make cuts, but I'd like to see more specifics. Thank you.
Any more? Mr. Moore, you got it.
Yeah. How is the possibility of a county being able to pass an amendment on a balanced budget?
We have to have a balanced budget already.
Well, we've been out of balance really bad.
I think what Jerry's meaning is we cannot use reserve to make up fund difference, is what he's saying.
We've been fighting these battles because we didn't.
That's one of the recommendations in the audit committee made, actually, is we form a policy regarding spending out of the reserve. If there's a hurricane, we want to be able to get to it, but I agree, we made the change this year. We're not using the reserve to make up money.
Well, can we make that an agenda item and vote that we will use the reserve for emergencies, and other than that we will have a balanced budget? That's what everybody's fussing about. That's what we all care about. That's why we're here talking about all these different things, and it's because we have a shortage of money.
You can do any kind of agenda item you want, Mr. Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart.
3 votes, it'll carry on.
Very good.
And okay. Thank you.
I agree. I understand what Jerry's saying. He may not be articulating it very well, but you don't want to rely on your reserve to make up money you don't have that you're not going to collect in taxes.
I want to make sure that our income and our expense balance.
And the problem, just so when you write this item, because I'm good with, I'll be glad to discuss the item, is that when you write, the problem is we budget getting $10 and then we get $8. So you have to figure out, because we budgeted 10 and expected 10 and then only got 8. And that's where the problem came with the shortfall. So I just want, because our budget was balanced.
Very good.
And we had a shortfall. So I just want you to figure out, I'm not sure how you write the item unless you want us to start budgeting like 20% under.
Well, you just...
And even then we still might have a shortfall.
Yes, I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
I just don't want to, if we have a shortfall in taxes for 10%, then basically that is outside the budget that we're talking about. I want to just make sure that we don't spend 16% with a 10% shortfall. We want to stay within our...
And I think, if I can, I think that's part of the recommendations that Mr. Merrick is talking about. They want to, I think, quarterly or mid-year report to the board. I think we've been providing a mid-year report. We can provide a detailed one and say, okay, this is where we are with our revenue expenditures. What do we're not making the mark. What do you want to cut? Kind of like we did this year. We did it in March this year. I mean, we can continue that policy.
We have a clerk's office that sort of keeps up with our income and expense also. I would like, we get into this problem is that we didn't know what was happening. Somebody else did it. We didn't know what was happening. Everybody else to blame except me. I'd like to see a 90-day review, just a quick 90-day, we've got this much income, or we're short this much income. I'd hate to go at the end of the year. I don't want to go to the end of the year or 6 months later and say, well, 6 months ago we knew we were short. I don't want to come up 6 months from here and somebody know that I was short.
Maybe we could ask the clerk to give an abbreviated P&L report.
Exactly.
Exactly. Whoever wants it.
One of the items on that list was a Budget and Finance Committee, which I am a proponent of and always have been, and I think we need to reinstitute. So if somebody would put that on their agenda and get it voted on, then we could get it done.
I'll put it on my agenda, Mr.
Then you
Sir.
will get a monthly analysis of the budget.
Wonderful.
Which is a P&L report.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
We're adjourned. Thank you. By the way, we had 90 minutes of speakers tonight, so I'm sorry we limit y'all speaking.